Chapter 172. The Demon King was alarmed. Chapter 172. The Demon King was alarmed. In the soul-gathering pool. Shiryen looked up at the surface of the pool, guarding cautiously against Gu Lai, who might come down at any time. Being in the pool, he was not aware of what was happening outside. He did not know that in such a short period of time, both Demon Master Mojito and Mo Duanhuan had arrived in the valley. Since a large number of souls had been absorbed by the soul-gathering pearl, the soul-gathering pool looked much clearer than before. Being in the pool, Shiryen sensed a violent tremor coming from the valley as if the earth was shaking. This made him more alert, looking out for any trace of danger from above. All of a sudden, a familiar figure appeared over the pool. Xia Xinyan. Although he could not see it clearly from the pool, Shiryen immediately recognized Xia Xinyan through her perfect body. Xia's beautiful figure flew past the pool. Suddenly she started falling and was caught by a demon beast. All of this happened in an instant, and when Shiryen realized that Xia Xinyan was injured, she had disappeared, carried away by the Wind Thunder Lion. Shiryen felt a surge of rage. No longer hiding, Shiryen swam up towards the surface of the pool as fast as he could. "What are you doing? That guy must be still there." The ice-cold flame responded soon. Shiryen did not reply. His face looked ferocious, and an aura of evil, craziness, and hatred surrounded him. Suddenly, Shiryen entered the twofold sky, and his power doubled. "Don't go out!" The ice-cold flame shouted anxiously. Shiryen turned a deaf ear to it. Splash! Waves appeared on the surface of the soul-gathering pool. Shiryen jumped out of the pool and stood on the bank with a fierce-looking face. Gu Lai, who was about to enter the pool, was shocked. Seeing Shiryen appeared, he hurried to hide, running towards Gu Jianga. Gu Lai had always believed that Shiryen's body was occupied by the ice-cold flame. Knowing that he himself was no rival to the Skyfire, so upon seeing Shiryen, he immediately hid himself to avoid face-to-face confrontation. Coming out of the soul-gathering pool, Shiryen glanced around himself maliciously. In the sky over the valley, dense demon clouds were surrounding a ball of green light. The impact of the soul's attack were spreading everywhere. Gu Lai was rushing to a mountain cave beside him. He could vaguely see the figure of Gu Jianga at the entrance of the cave. Far away, a demon beast was leaving the valley, carrying Xia Xinyan. On the back of the beast, there was another hot woman, who was feeding Xinyan some pills. "Xinyan!" Shiryen shouted to the sky, standing beside the pool. He-Chi Man, who was on the back of the Wind Thunder Lion, was rather shocked by Shiryen's cry. She looked down and saw Shiryen, who was both sad and angry. She was badly soul-attacked by Demon Master Mojito. He-Chi Man shouted back, gritting her teeth, "For you. She was trying to save you." "Mojito." Shiryen looked up at the sky, asking the ice-cold flame with his mind, "How can we absorb his soul?" Turn the part of the soul-gathering pearl which has been covered towards the guy's soul, and use your mind power to form a connection between his soul and the soul-gathering pearl. You only need to release a part of your mind power, get close to the guy's soul, and the soul-gathering pearl will connect with his soul automatically. Then the pearl will absorb his soul. Got it? Shiryen immediately released some mind power, and this power formed a light beam, shooting straight up into the demon clouds in the sky. Suddenly, a beam of black light shot from the uncovered part of the soul-gathering pearl. Then, streams of soul's light started shooting from the soul-gathering pearl, feeding into the weird-looking black light which shone at Demon Master Mojito's soul. Numerous souls were appearing from the black light and were condensing in the beam. The souls were tangling with each other, empowering the black light to the extent that Demon Master Mojito's soul were unable to withstand it any longer. In the thick demon clouds, Demon Master Mojito's soul was captured by the black light, and it could not move a single bit. The demon's shadow started wavering and was drawn into the black light generated from the soul-gathering pearl. "Who dares to do this to me?" An enormous mind message was spreading across the whole valley that every warrior in the valley could hear it clearly. This was the consciousness of Demon Master Mojito. However, with his soul constrained, this mind message only conveyed his consciousness without the power of soul attack. "Whoever you are," Shiryen sneered, You will not go back once you came. I'll kill you. I'll make you wish you've never been born. The consciousness of Demon Master Mojito was sounding in the valley. But the demon shadow formed by his soul was being absorbed into the black light shining from the soul-gathering pearl. The soul-gathering pearl was only effective to souls. If it was Demon Master Mojito himself, not the soul that had come, then Shiryen would not be able to beat him even after 100 years. Mojito, who was in the spirit realm, was one of the 4 demon masters in the 4th demon area and was the most powerful one under the 2 demon king. No matter in the 4th demon area or the Endless Sea, he was so notorious that everybody was afraid of him. Common Warriors was petrified upon hearing the title of Demon Master, let alone wanting to fight against him. Years ago, King Yang Qing led a group of excellent warriors from the Yang family to the 4th demon area, and only killed 1 demon master after going through all kinds of dangers. And they were severely injured by the other 3 demon masters that they barely made it back to the Endless Sea. And Mojito was among the demon master who had barely killed King Yang Qing. And now, Shiryen, a warrior merely in the disaster realm, was not afraid of Mojito and was about to destroy Mojito's soul with the help of the soul-gathering pearl. This was too shocking to the warriors present in the valley. Surprise even surfaced on Mo Duanhuan's expressionless face. He was now at the center of the image of universal nature, looking down unbelievingly at Shiryen. The Shura guards who had just arrived all felt Mojito's consciousness, and all heard Shiryen's challenge to Mojito. These Shura guards were all startled. Some of them rubbed their eyes, wondering if something were wrong with their eyes. Gu Lai and Gu Jianga were cringing at the entrance of the cave. They were too shocked that their face went pale. He Chi Man, who was on the back of the Wind Thunder Lion, were more than surprised, not knowing what was going on down there. She had never heard of the soul-gathering pearl, let alone that the soul-gathering pearl in Shiryen's hand that could constrain Mojito's soul. She found the whole thing unreal. Shiryen trapped Mojito's soul with the black light and was drawing Mojito's soul into the black crystal ball in his hand. Shiryen turned a blind eye to the surroundings and was coldly staring at the black light and Mojito's soul that was drawn into the soul-gathering pearl. Great! Great! The ice-cold flame was excited. This is the soul of the spirit realm master. This guy's soul is as powerful as hundreds of thousands of common people's souls combined. Getting the soul-gathering pearl can be used to refine the pure soul power. That will be enough for us too. Shiryen kept his silence, concentrating his mind to guide the black light. Holding the soul-gathering pearl, he could feel vaguely that there was some connection between himself and the black light. Through the black light, he could feel how horribly powerful Mojito's soul was. The chi of Mojito's soul was as enormous as oceans, as high as mountains. Feeling it for merely 1 second, one would feel awed and would no longer dare to fight against it. If Shiryen had not been so strong-willed, he would probably broke down under the enormous pressure from Mojito's soul and would very likely flee. The shock to the soul was sometimes much more powerful than the attacks on the physical body. Suddenly, a consciousness of worship was sent out from Mojito's soul in the black light. A strange type of aura started spreading in the valley as if Mojito's soul was eulogizing something, as if it was praying to some god, praying for a gift from God. In the valley, demon air was now gathering 100 times faster. And in the gray sky, a visible crack appeared. Demon air was pouring down from the crack like flood breaching the dike. A huge white bony hand suddenly reached out from the crack. The hand was as white as jade, yet dense demon air was coming from its fingers and palm. In a moment, the whole Cloud's Island was covered by demon air. The 5 fingers of the huge white hand curled, each finger as big as a mountain. They came out of nowhere and went straight to fetch Mojito's soul in the black light. Shiryen! Release! Mo Duanhuan shouted in the sky. Release! The ice-cold flame also informed. Shiryen was shocked. He does not dare to hesitate and cut off his mind power at once, and covered the black part of the soul-gathering pearl with one hand. The connection between the black light and the soul-gathering pearl broke immediately. The huge white bony hand grabbed randomly, and the black light coming from the soul-gathering pearl was shattered like pieces of glass. The hand did not stay longer, as it only grabbed Mojito's soul and cringed back into the crack. Boy, I remember the stigma of your soul. A consciousness that was powerful enough to destroy the whole world was heard from the crack. All colors of light were shining in the crack, and the thick demon air over Cloud's Island was streaming crazily into the crack. In an instant, all the demon air had disappeared into the crack without a single trace. Crimson clouds at sunset began to appear in the sky, shiny and beautiful. Now it was at dusk. Cold sweats appeared on Shurian's forehead. One of his hands was still covering the exposed part of the soul-gathering pearl. Even now, he could not dare to loosen his grip. Demon King Bo-sun. Skeletal Avatar. Gritting his teeth, Shurian looked up at the sky. His face looked serious but determined. Chapter 173. The Beauty Fell Asleep. Chapter 173. The Beauty Fell Asleep. All was quiet in the valley. All the warriors in the valley were looking up in the sky at the crack that was gradually closing, and the huge white bony hand that was being pulled back into the crack. It was Demon King Bo-sun, one of the two supremacies in the 4 demon areas. Seeing Demon Master Mojito being trapped, he used his power to tear apart the space and brought Mojito's soul back to the demon area. If it was not the huge white bony hand of Bo-sun, Mojito's soul would have hardly survived the power of the soul-gathering pearl. Even his soul was in the spirit realm. It could not get rid of the constraints of the soul-gathering pool and would be among the hundreds of thousands of souls absorbed by the pearl. The appearance of Bo-sun's huge white bony hand had shocked all of the warriors in the valley. Under the pressure of the hand's horribly destructive power, even Emo Duanhuan felt somewhat helpless. Fortunately, Bo-sun's aim was merely to bring Mojito's soul back. If he was really determined to deal with the warriors in the valley, then all the people in the valley would probably die except for Emo Duanhuan, who might be able to use the image of universal nature to escape. Shurian was looking up at the sunglow. His face looked extremely serious. This was the second time that he had seen the Demon King taking action. The first time was on his way to the Endless Sea, when Skeletal Avatar suddenly appeared and grabbed Xiaohani into the 4th demon area. This time, Bo-sun's Skeletal Avatar reappeared and saved Mojito. The extraordinary power of Bo-sun truly frightened Shurian. The huge pressure on people's souls made them feel like they were fighting against an invincible god. No wonder people would easily give up fighting. If it were not his extraordinarily tough mind, he would be kneeling down at Bo-sun's terrifying power. Emo Duanhuan, too, was watching the crack in the sky closing with a serious look. He waited until the last trace of demon air had disappeared on the Cloud's Island and then flew down from the sky, standing beside Shurian. Master Yen, Emo Duanhuan bowed slightly. I was ordered by the family master to come here and take you to the Immortal Island. Shurian frowned. You knew I'm still alive? My family master used 3 drops of immortal blood and knew that you had not been possessed by the ice-cold flame and that you will be here on the Cloud's Island by now. Then, we agreed to reconcile with the Gu family and chose to come here since that we knew you would be here too. Emo Duanhuan nodded. I see. Shurian was rather surprised. He was surprised by the master of the Yang family, King Yangqing's methods. He merely used 3 drops of immortal blood and knew whether Shurian was dead or alive. This was almost as powerful as God. It was said that King Yangqing had entered the spirit realm after he had finished cultivating his vital energy and that his power had been enhanced substantially. It seemed that the rumors were true now. Do we need to deal with Gu Lai and his son first? Shurian was about to say something else until he saw Gu Lai in the cave beside them. Emo Duanhuan expressionlessly nodded, and then asked for Shurian's opinion. How would you want to deal with them? Gu Lai and Gu Jianga looked pale after seeing Mojito's soul being constrained by Shurian's soul-gathering pearl. Now, their faces were even more paler. Hearing the conversation between Shurian and Emo Duanhuan, they looked at each other, and hopelessness filled their eyes. How would you deal with people who had colluded with demon dwellers? Shurian thought for a few seconds and sneered. These two used the secret methods of that faction to kill thousands of common people, used their souls to build the bridge for demon dwellers, and then guided Demon Master Mojito here. Having committed this kind of crime, do they deserve to be killed? They do. Emo Duanhuan nodded. I'll kill Gu Lai first and keep Gu Jianga alive so that we can take him back to the Gu family. Then, we can use Gu Jianga's memory to prove what had happened in this valley. At that time, the Gu family will have to admit what they had done. Okay, do as you wish. Shi Yan smiled. Emo Duanhuan said no more. Emo Duanhuan was originally standing beside Shi Yan, but now, his figure became gradually fuzzy as he was disappearing under Shi Yan's eyes. Meanwhile, a shrill cry was heard from the valley beside Shi Yan. Soon after the cry, Gu Jianga's scream could also be heard, "Father." Shi Yan was surprised and found that Emo Duanhuan's figure had completely disappeared. Looking over to the cave, Shi Yan found that Gu Lai had already died. Blood continued to pour out of his eyes, ears, and mouth. Emo Duanhuan's figure suddenly appeared at the entrance of the valley. Then, he stretched out his hand and pressed against Gu Jianga's head. Flashes of green light came out from Emo Duanhuan's palm and went into Gu Jianga's head. Gu Jianga's eyes gradually went dim as he screamed painfully. At last, he stopped screaming and just stood there stiffly. Grabbing Gu Jianga with one hand, Emo Duanhuan flew back to Shi Yan's side and threw him to a Shura guard as he ordered, "Take him." Everything happened so fast that Shi Yan did not see how Emo Duanhuan did it exactly. In an instant, Gu Lai was killed and Gu Jianga was under Emo Duanhuan's control after a few cries. Now, Gu Jianga became delirious since his soul had been imprisoned. The 6th-level demon beast of the evil wonderland, the Wind Thunder Lion, suddenly descended from the sky and stood beside Shi Yan and Emo Duanhuan. Sister Xinyan's soul had been severely injured. He man who was coming down the Wind Thunder Lion said anxiously she had been unconscious since then. What should we do? Shi Yan went towards the Wind Thunder Lion immediately. The Wind Thunder Lion howled, opening its fierce-looking mouth and staring angrily at Shi Yan, not allowing him to come close. Easy. Man slightly kicked the Wind Thunder Lion on one of its wings. The Wind Thunder Lion immediately became obedient. It just stared at Shi Yan without any movement. It seemed to be very afraid of Man. Shi Yan came to the Wind Thunder Lion and saw Xinyan, whom he had not seen for 3 years. She was as beautiful as 3 years ago, but her face was pale now, and there was traces of blood on her lips. Her eyes were closed, covered by her long eyelashes. Sister Xinyan knew that you were in the pool and that Gu Lai was about to go into the pool to find you. Thus, she immediately used her reincarnation martial spirit, trying to stop Gu Lai. But at that time, Demon Master Mojito suddenly interfered and used soul attack to injure her soul. Man was very worried, lamenting, "Soul injuries are much harder to heal than physical injuries. And Demon Master Mojito is in the spirit realm. His soul attacks are terribly powerful. I'm afraid Sister Xinyan will never recover from this injury." Man and Xinyan were very close. Else, she would not come here together with Xinyan despite knowing that there was danger here. After Xinyan was severely injured, Man had taken out all kinds of healing pills she had on her to feed Xinyan. However, Xinyan stayed unconscious and her soul was extremely weak. Man tried to communicate with Xinyan via her mind, but found that Xinyan's soul has dispersed. Without a concentrated soul, Xia could not receive the mind message she sent. After realizing this, Man became more worried from not knowing what to do. After examining Xinyan in detail, Shi Yan's face looked serious. Xinyan's soul has indeed been dispersed, and it could be called a human vegetable state in his world. She might never be able to wake up. "Lord Emo, come have a look." Shi Yan suddenly looked up at Emo Duanhuan and said, "I don't want anything bad happen to her." Emo Duanhuan nodded softly, walked slowly to Xinyan, and stretched out one finger to touch the backside of Xinyan's head. Some power of the soul was generating from Emo Duanhuan's finger and was being transmitted into Xinyan's mind. Emo Duanhuan's face became grave. Shi Yan's heart tightened and his face changed color. Telling from Emo Duanhuan's expression, Shi Yan knew that Xinyan's injury must be more severe than they had thought. And it was true. Before long, Emo Duanhuan pulled back his finger and said seriously, She's badly injured, and it is very difficult to concentrate her mind. Taking a blow from Mojito, even the souls of warriors in the Nirvana realm would be destroyed in an instant, let alone the soul of a warrior in the Earth realm. The reason why her soul was not destroyed was because of her reincarnation martial spirit. If it were not the reincarnation martial spirit, she would have been dead by now. Lord Mo, what are you talking about? He Qingman asked anxiously. Little Xia's reincarnation martial spirit gathered her souls of her previous lives at the crucial moment and helped her withstand Mojito's soul attack. The memory and consciousness of her previous lives and her memory and consciousness of this life were disorganized by Mojito's attack. Therefore, right now, she has not only the memory of this life, but those of her previous lives, and many lives at that. The memories were too disorganized and too large in number, causing her soul to break down. In this case, she is very unlikely to recover unless we sort her memories out. Shiryan's face changed a little. Then, what can we do? Nothing. Mo Duanhuan waved his head helplessly after a few seconds. The injury in soul cannot be healed by pills. She can come around only if she could sort out those messy memories and consciousness by herself. And this process might take 1 year, 100 years, or forever. What? He Qingman screamed. You mean Sister Xinyan might never wake up? How can this be? Is there nothing we can do to help? Really? Shiryan gritted his teeth. There is no way I know of. Mo Duanhuan lamented. Hopelessness filled He Qingman's eyes. Then, she stared at Shiryan and blamed you. It's because of you. If it were not for you, Sister Xinyan would not be like this. Shiryan did not know how to respond. At this moment, the blood vein ring began to shine. Shiryan, who was blaming himself, let his mind enter the blood vein ring and asked impatiently, what are you crying for? It's only an injury to her soul. The consciousness of the ice-cold flame scorned. How stupid you are. You have the soul-gathering pool in your hand. Once it is refined, the pure soul power in it will be the panacea for healing souls. As long as that woman is alive, the soul power of the pearl is able to heal her and make her as lively as before. Shiryan's eyes started shining as happiness resurfaced onto his face. Chapter 174, Misunderstanding. Chapter 174, Misunderstanding. You're heartless. He mocking sneered. Her bright eyes were chillingly cold. She hatefully stared at Shiryan and said, Sister Xinyan is like this because of you, and you are actually feeling happy? Do you even have a conscience? She kept looking at Shiryan scornfully after she caught a bit of joyous expression on Shiryan's face. Obviously, she wouldn't know that after communicating with the ice-cold flame, Shiryan had come with a way to save Xia Xinyan. He Qingman just thought that Shiryan must be feeling lucky and immediately started criticizing him. She felt bitter in her heart and got angered upon seeing Shiryan being ungrateful. Those Shura blood guards nearby also got confused. Seeing the happy look on Shiryan's face, they also felt something was amiss. With even Mo Duanhuan saying that Xia Xinyan would be hard to treat, it was evident that Xia Xinyan's soul was injured heavily. At this moment, seeing the joyous Shiryan made everyone suspect his intentions. Only Mo Duanhuan thought otherwise and looked at the blood vein ring on Shiryan's hand with a thoughtful expression. Shiryan was aware of He Qingman's scolding, but he simply ignored it. His consciousness was deep into the ring, still in conversation with the ice-cold flame. In order to convert the souls into pure soul power, how do you refine the soul-gathering pearl? It's very easy. The ice-cold flame was just waiting for this question from Shiryan. Burn the soul-gathering pearl in a special fire, destroying all the soul impurities inside the soul-gathering pearl. What remains will be soul power that is pure enough to be absorbed. A special fire? Shiryan thought for a moment. You are also one of the sky fires. Will you be able to do it? No. The ice-cold flame immediately responded, you have to use extremely hot temperatures in order to burn away the soul impurities inside the pearl. Although the ice-cold flame was one of the sky fires, it was very special. Usually, most sky fires were very hot, capable of burning everything in their path, but ice-cold flame was chilling to the bone. It had the exact opposite characteristics of sealing everything in ice. As the soul-gathering pearl needed extremely high temperature to refine, the fire from the ice-cold flame would be of no use. Does that mean that I will need another sky fire to refine the pearl? Yan's heart sank. Sky fires are the most extraordinary fire in the world. If it is really needed, where in the world I would find it? You won't be needing a sky fire exactly. The ice-cold flame said after a moment. The fire at the center of a 100,000-foot-tall volcano will be enough to refine the pearl. As long as you are able to find a 10,000-year-old volcano, just place the pearl in its center. Let me take a look at it, and I will know whether the idea will work out or not. Enter the center of a 10,000-year-old volcano? Yan's face slightly changed. I would probably be burnt to ashes halfway. The central region of a 10,000-year-old volcano was extremely hot. Let alone a disaster realm warrior, even an earth realm, or a nirvana realm strong warrior, would probably not be able to hold up if he rashly entered into the center of a 10,000-year-old volcano. The ice-cold flame's suggestion made Yan full of despondence. Hey, I am talking to you. Quigman stood in front of Yan proudly, with her plump and seductive chest. Her eyes were still chilly as she glared at Yan. What, are you mute? Or have speechless? Yan, who was in a deep discussion with the ice-cold flame, suddenly woke from Qingman's shout. Naturally, he didn't know what Qingman had said. Yan still had some good opinions towards Manqing. Since when Xia Xinyan's body fell from the sky, it was this woman who ordered her demon beast to rescue Xia Xinyan. Or else, even if Xia Xinyan's soul were to recover in the future, her body would have been half-wasted. Because of that, Yan felt some gratitude towards Qingman, and he also knew her worries were all because of Xia Xinyan. So Yan didn't mind Qingman's unfriendly attitude. Sister Xinyan is in this state, and you are happy? Qingman clenched her teeth. I've never seen a heartless man like you. In the Kiara Sea, Sister Xinyan is the most desired girl. God knows how many young men has a soft spot for her. There are way too many who are more handsome and stronger than you. But just for you, in these 3 years, Sister Xinyan had been fighting with the Gu and Dongfang families all along. Knowing that you came to Cloud's Island, she even risked her life to come and find you. And because of you, she is now like this. But you are secretly feeling happy. You're truly cruel and ungrateful. The most shameless of all. The more Qingman thought about it, the more she disliked Yan. She ruthlessly insulted him. Yan didn't know if he should laugh or cry from her fierce scolding. He felt that this woman had some problems inside, and she judged the situation without knowing anything, such an opinionated person. So Yan once again became silent and chose to continue ignoring her. How do I enter into the center of a 10,000-year-old volcano? Yan communicated. Did you forget about me? The ice-cold flame answered proudly, with my cold energy as a protection. What kind of volcano can't you enter? How can a mere earth fire oppose against me? With me to protect you, what do you have to be scared about? Yan immediately realized the truth. Because of Xia Xinyan's injuries, his mind was kind of in a mess. He actually forgot about how frightening the ice-cold flame's cold energy was. Menluo Island, back in the day, was a land where volcanoes gathered. Even this kind of place still became an ice island under the ice-cold flame's cold energy. In this whole world, what kind of volcano can it go deep into? I understand now. Yan's mind settled down, and once again there was a joyous expression on his face. Shameless. Shameless. Qingman's clenching teeth made gritting sounds. I've really never seen people like you. How unfortunate that Sister Xinyan actually complimented you all along. This is really an eye-opener for me. How could such a smart person like Sister Xinyan fancy a guy like you? I really feel unfair for her. After Manqing taunted for so long, she saw Yan smile again. This really made her anger go through the roof. If Imo Duanhuan weren't next to her, she might have not been able to hold back and attacked Yan to teach him a lesson. Is it fun for you to talk to yourself? Yan's consciousness returned from the blood vein ring. He slightly glanced at Qingman and said indifferently, if it were anyone else after being wronged and scolded for so long, they would feel a little annoyed from inside. Yan was no exception. He-Chi-Man didn't get the situation at all, and subjectively thought him as a heartless and unfaithful heartbreaker. She clenched her teeth and scolded him for minutes, and seeing that he didn't speak, she just kept scolding. This made Shiryen feel that this woman really had problems. You. He-Manching pointed at Shiryen. She was breathing fast, and her breasts were high up, curving into a seductive figure. She was so upset at the moment that she actually couldn't speak. Shiryen looked at her sideways. He knew that this woman had a hot body, and her looks must be extraordinary too. But at the moment his mind wasn't thinking in this regard, so he was too lazy to bother with her. After glancing once at He-Chi-Man, he turned his head away to ask Emo Duanhuan by his side, "Are there any 10,000-year-old volcanoes around here?" "There are none nearby." Emo Duanhuan was stunned, but he pondered for a second. "But there are some in the Kiara Sea. The biggest 10,000-year-old volcano is in the Firecloud Island, controlled by the evil Wonderland. Miss He knows the best about this area, as the current master of Firecloud Island is He Luo, her father." Shiryen dazed for a second. His expression immediately became weird. He turned his head and looked at He-Chi-Man once again. He-Chi-Man was still mad. She clenched her teeth and fiercely stared at Shiryen. "No matter what you want to do, I won't help you. You heartless, unfaithful heartbreaker, just looking at you gets on my nerves." Then, He-Chi-Man's hot, beautiful body casually moved, and in an instant, she was already sitting on the Wind Thunder Lion. With the moving of her long, beautiful legs, He-Chi-Man shouted, "Let's go." "Wait." Shiryen frowned. He suddenly blocked the Wind Thunder Lion and raised his head to look at He-Chi-Man, who sat high above on the Wind Thunder Lion, and said, "You can go, but Sinyan has to stay with me." "What gives you that right?" He-Chi-Man's eyes turned cold. "Sister Sinyan came with me, and now that her soul is heavily injured, I have to use the greatest speed to escort her back to the Xia family. When the Xia family knows that Sister Sinyan has been injured so badly, they would definitely use all their power to find a way to save her. Unlike you, they will never do nothing and even gloat around." The Wind Thunder Lion was ready to move. He-Chi-Man sat on top and condescendingly looked down at Shiryen, taunting with her words. The Level 6 Wind Thunder Lion realized its mistress's anger. Its bell-sized dark red eyes fiercely started at Shiryen and raised its head to release an angry roar. A Level 6 demon beast was comparable to a Nirvana realm warrior. After this Wind Thunder Lion's angry roar, 2 wind blades formed into shape and shot at Shiryen. "Stupid beast!" He-Chi-Man shouted, and the look in her eyes slightly changed. Emo Duanhuan snorted coldly and, just like a phantom, appeared in front of the Wind Thunder Lion. His big hands grabbed out and actually held the wind blades. He furrowed his brows and looked at He-Chi-Man. "Do you need me to discipline your demon beast?" "It's a misunderstanding." He-Chi-Man was startled as she hurriedly stomped her foot. She stepped on the Wind Thunder Lion's head, secretly scolding at how stupid this demon beast was. With Emo Duanhuan so near it, the Wind Thunder Lion had already settled down. It hurriedly laid down again and didn't even dare to raise its head. It didn't dare to look at Emo Duanhuan, scared that he might act ruthlessly. A Level 6 demon beast already had some wisdom. "Leave Sinyan." Shiryen's face was grim. He stood in front of the Wind Thunder Lion and coldly looked at He-Chi-Man. "Even if you're a young family member, you still have no right to command me." He-Chi-Man gritted her teeth. "Sister Sinyan came with me, so she has to leave with me. I will never give Sister Sinyan to a heartless man like you." "I can save her," Shiryen said with a deep voice. "You can save her?" He-Chi-Man dazed for a second, and then said in disdain, "Even Master Emo can't do anything. What way do you have to save her? Your capabilities are not good, but your tone sure is arrogant. Young Master Yen, do you want to go to the Firecloud Island?" Emo Duanhuan saw that at this rate there would be no end to this argument, and finally couldn't help but say, "If you're going to the Firecloud Island, then you don't need to move Xia. Miss He should be going back to the Firecloud Island too. We can just go the same way." After Emo Duanhuan said that, Shiryen pondered for a moment and also agreed, "I am going to the Firecloud Island. Master Emo, what about you?" Before returning to Immortal Island, I will keep following you. Emo Duanhuan responded. All right then. Shiryen nodded and walked towards the only level 6 cyan bloodbat there. Then you can escort me to Firecloud Island. All right. Dash. Edited by Vic, Chanks, and Bobby. Chapter 175. Didn't come for nothing. Chapter 175. Didn't come for nothing. Inside the valley, the water of the soul-gathering pool had already turned transparent. All of the souls inside the pool water entered into the soul-gathering pearl. Qingman seemed to extremely dislike Shiryen. After getting Emo Duanhuan's approval, she rode the Wind Thunder Lion and immediately flew into the air with Xia Xinyan. They headed out of Cloud's Island ahead of the rest. Shiryen was in the valley. He sat on the cyan bloodbat and waiting. When he realized that there were no more souls inside the soul-gathering pool, he spat a few more times at the soul-gathering pearl. Once the spit fell on the pearl, it immediately formed into a white thin film that completely covered the soul-gathering pearl. Once the soul-gathering pearl was completely wrapped by the thin film, it no longer displayed the extraordinary use of absorbing souls. Emo Duanhuan was standing beside him while watching Shiryan's actions. He saw that the soul-gathering pearl in Shiryan's hand absorbed all of the souls from the soul-gathering pool. When he saw Shiryen spit on the soul-gathering pearl, his expression became a little strange. But from the beginning to the end, Emo Duanhuan didn't ask about anything. All right, we can get going now. Everything was ready. Shiryen carefully kept the soul-gathering pearl and then finally smiled at Emo Duanhuan. Emo Duanhuan nodded. A wave of mind power was casted out, and the cyan bloodbat below him immediately expanded its wings and flew up towards the direction of the Wind Thunder Lion. A level 6 cyan bloodbat had an extremely fast flying speed. However, Emo Duanhuan didn't rush, but instead, he made the cyan bloodbat slow down so that the other lower-level cyan bloodbats could catch up. Ahead of them, the Wind Thunder Lion that Qingman mounted on was also not flying very fast. It seemed to be waiting for Emo Duanhuan. Although Qingman didn't like Shiryen, she knew that this was still the Hangluo Sea. It was not under the control of the evil Wonderland, and they might even meet strong warriors from the Three God sect, the Gu family, or the Dongfang family. Before entering the Kiara Sea, she didn't dare to distance away from Emo Duanhuan too far. Cloud's Island wasn't small. After Shiryen went ashore, it still took him a few days to get to the valley. However, once he sat on the cyan bloodbat, it was many times faster flying from the top of the valley towards outside Yunxia Island. In just about half an hour, the cyan bloodbats already flew out of Cloud's Island. After leaving Cloud's Island, Shiryen was just about to speak when he looked down and suddenly saw a familiar boat. Looking down condescendingly, he could faintly see that next to the messy pile of cargo in the back, there was a slightly vague, beautiful figure. The figure had her long hair flying in the wind, making her appear beautiful. Shiryen sighed in his mind. His expression appeared slightly gloomy. He shook his head lightly. In the sea, the boat slowly sailed. On the deck, Jet, Nano, and the rest all raised their heads. They pointed at the cyan bloodbats that flew above while shouting, "Look! Cyan bloodbats! The Yang family's cyan bloodbats! Shura blood guards! The one on the cyan blood guard in the foremost position must be the Shura King Emo Duanhuan. Hey, why is there two figures? The cyan bloodbat that Emo Duanhuan is sitting on should be level 6. That cyan bloodbat is in the lead, meaning that it should belong to the Shura King Emo Duanhuan, but who's the other guy? Who knows? It's so far away that I can't see clearly. That's definitely the most distinguished figure in the Yang family. Or else they wouldn't have the right to ride a level 6 cyan bloodbat. The cyan bloodbats have left Cloud's Island. I wonder how the negotiations between the Yang and Gu families went. How else could it be? You think the Gu family would dare go against the Yang family? It's hard to say. When we left from Cloud's Island, didn't we see the island get covered in darkness? Maybe some changes really happened on Cloud's Island. Who cares? Anyway, it has nothing to do with us. We're just in charge of delivering the things here. Jet, Nano, and the rest all raised their heads to look. They chattered amongst themselves. In the corner of the boat, Carmen and Huajie scowled. They also raised their heads to look up into the sky while watching the two blurry figures on top of the cyan bloodbath. Linda stood at the area where Shiryen often sat, dazed. She didn't look into the sky and no one knew what she was thinking. Hey, that guy. That guy. Jet's eyes were extremely sharp. After staring at the cyan bloodbath up ahead for a long while, he suddenly shook and seemed to have discovered something. Jet, what are you screaming about? Nano casually asked. Nothing, nothing. Jet shook his head. He suspected that his eyes were mistaken. When he wanted to look more closely, he realized that the cyan bloodbaths were already far away. He could no longer see the figure on top. After hesitating for a while on the deck, Jet quietly came to where Linda was at. Seeing that Linda was still standing there dazing, Jet quietly sighed inside. He came to try to persuade her, Sister Linda, he won't come back. Before we left, didn't we wait for 2 days? He didn't come, meaning that he will never come back. Sister Linda, you should forget about him. Linda's dazed eyes slowly became sober again. She glimpsed at Jet and said lightly, what are you doing here? Jet hesitated. Spill it. Linda frowned and said impatiently. The Yang family cyan bloodbaths just flew over our heads. Sister Linda, did you notice? Shaking her head, Linda said, I didn't notice. Why? On the cyan bloodbath in the lead, there were 2 people. Jet continued. So there were 2 people. What's that got to do with us? Linda's pretty brows furrowed as she said impatiently, Jet, if there's something you have to say, can't you just say it directly? You keep muttering. What are you even doing? The cyan bloodbath in the lead are always of the highest level. The people who mount them also should be the most distinguished figures. It is said that this time, the leader from the Yang family is the top of the 3 Shura kings, Emo Duanhuan. The one person sitting on that level 6 cyan bloodbath should be Emo Duanhuan, but the other one. When Jet spoke to this part, he paused again. Linda was mad as she shouted coldly, would you stop that already? What do you want to say? Sister Linda, you know that my eyes are quite sharp, right? Jet put up a wry smile. Your stealthy eyes are quite sharp. Linda nodded. Her expression was still cold. Why? I don't know if I was mistaken. Jet's face was filled with a bitter smile. I think that the other person that was sitting with the Shura King Emo Duanhuan should be Shiryen. Linda's delicate body shook as her eyes filled with disbelief. Someone who can sit with Emo Duanhuan is no normal figure. I might really have been mistaken. Shiryen is only in the disaster realm. No matter how you see it, he's not qualified to sit with Emo Duanhuan. Sister Linda, just see it as I'm bullshitting. I didn't see it that clearly either. Seeing that Linda's delicate body shook and that her expression drastically changed, Jet was startled. He immediately explained. Linda was already dazed. Her eyes were unfocused while she blankly looked at the cyan bloodbaths on the sky that already formed into black dots. Her expression was extremely complicated. Could it really be him? Is Uncle Shao still alive? On the cyan bloodbath, Shiryen sat steadily when he suddenly spoke out of nowhere. Emo Duanhuan was truly something else. On the way, he was silent. He didn't ask anything about him, how he got out of the seizing of the ice-cold flame, nor what method he used that could suppress the soul of the demon master Mojito. Shiryen prepared many lies that were originally prepared against Emo Duanhuan's interrogation, but he realized that he prepared for nothing. This guy was clearly curious, but he had held back and did not ask about anything. This made the lies that had Shiryen prepared completely useless. Emo Duanhuan and Xiao Hani were both Shura kings from the Yang family, but his personality was the exact opposite from Xiao Hani. Xiao Hani was arrogant and audacious. He was also a cultivation freak. But once he had free time, he would still joke with Shiryen in an ill-mannered way, and even tease about Shiryen and Xia Xinyan's relationship. But Emo Duanhuan was different. This guy was almost like a piece of wood. Ever since Shiryen mounted on the cyan bloodbath, he hadn't said a thing. He didn't speak on his own will, but Shiryen still wanted to know some things about the Yang family and about Xiao Hani. Since Yang Qingdi could predict that he was alive, then he must have been able to predict about Xiao Hani. Shiryen greatly appreciated Xiao Hani and he really didn't want anything to happen to him. Thus, he wanted to ask. Alive, Emodwanhuan answered crisp and simple. Shuryen smiled wryly. In Immortal Island or the Demon Area? In the fourth Demon Area, he is temporarily constrained. The head of the family already went to the fourth Demon Area just to rescue him. Emodwanhuan turned his head to look at Shuryen once, and then finally said a few more sentences. This time when the Demon King Bosun's skeletal avatar reappeared, why did it return so quickly? Why didn't it attack us? The skeletal avatar attacks through the dimensions. Its powers cannot be completely exerted. Plus, if it were to attack, it would be greatly damaged afterwards. Emodwanhuan explained, paused, and then continued, and he knows that I carry the image of universal nature with me. So that's why. Shuryen nodded. The Demon Master Mojito used a special method in order to have his soul appear to this place. He was summoned here using the power of thousands of souls. He was summoned here by the father and son Gu Lai and Gu Jianga, so he wasn't affected by the rules of the dimensions. Shuryen didn't mention the soul-gathering pearl. He blamed everything on the thousands of civilian souls summoned by Gu Lai and Gu Jianga. He hinted that Mojito's arrival won't damage his soul and that afterwards, when he returned to the fourth demon area, he still wouldn't have much injuries. The things concerning you, the ice-cold flame, and what happened inside the valley, you can explain them in detail when you return to Immortal Island and meet the head of the family. Emodwanhuan nodded and then squinted. I don't want to ask about much. However, if you choose to tell me on your own accord, I will listen. If you want to listen, I can tell you some things. If you're not interested in listening, then I have no interest in telling either. Shuryen chuckled. He felt that the old guy Emodwanhuan was quite interesting. He clearly wanted to know, but he didn't forwardly ask. He wondered if that's him following rules or just having a weird temper. Emodwanhuan's lips twitched. His expression was strange. After a long moment, he finally said indifferently, "You can say it. The ice-cold flame is inside my body. It didn't seize me, but I can't defeat it either. Right now, we are peacefully coexisting." Shuryen smirked, and then said lightly. Emodwanhuan's eyes brightened. He stared at Shuryen deeply for a long while, and then finally nodded slowly. It really is the case. I heard that to merge with the ice-cold flame, you need 9 of the most yang-powered and scorching precious treasures. Does the Yang family have precious treasures like that? Shuryen smiled. Yes, but only 3 of them. Emodwanhuan's eyes became brighter and brighter, although they're not enough for now, but once you meet the head of the family, he should be willing to try everything to gather the rest for you. Once you are really capable enough to tame the ice-cold flame, all the materials you lack, the Yang family will think of ways to get them for you. I painstakingly came to the Endless Sea. Sure didn't come for nothing. Chapter 176, Exactly How Strong. Chapter 176, Exactly How Strong. In Shuryen's perspective, Emodwanhuan was a complete weirdo. He was always silent and barely spoke. If no one spoke with him first, he rarely opened his mouth. On the way, unless Shuryen asked, Emodwanhuan never spoke an extra word. He seemed to have no curiosity for anything. Shuryen was determined to gain more understanding about the Kiara Sea. He didn't care whether Emodwanhuan disliked it or not. As long as he had a question he wanted to know about, he would ask about it immediately. Emodwanhuan never spoke on his own, but when Shuryen asked, he would answer one by one. From Emodwanhuan, Shuryen had gained quite a lot of information. In the Kiara Sea, there were 3 big forces. Other than the Yang family, there was the Xia family and the Evil Wonderland. In those 2, the Evil Wonderland's power seemed to be slightly higher than the Xia family. The warrior forces in the Endless Sea were all unusual. Each had their mysterious and wondrous aspects. The Evil Wonderland was naturally no exception. According to Emodwanhuan, in the Endless Sea, the Evil Wonderland was a very magical place. Legend has it that several millennia ago, a married couple accidentally entered into the Evil Wonderland and discovered many strange martial skills and unique treasures inside. They knew that the Evil Wonderland was a mysterious wonderland left from the ancient times, so they occupied the Evil Wonderland. Inside the evil wonderland, there were many kinds of wonders. The spirit energies there were extremely filling. It was one of the treasured lands in the Kiara Sea with the most vigorous spirit energy. The most magical thing about the evil wonderland was a soul-nurturing room. The soul-nurturing room was also the foundation of the evil wonderland. When talking about the specific circumstances about the soul-nurturing room, Mo Duanhuan couldn't explain it very clearly. However, he told Shiryan that the biggest use of the soul-nurturing room was to breed martial spirits. Normally, if one person in a couple had a martial spirit, then their child will have a chance of inheriting a martial spirit. If both sides contained martial spirits, then their child would have an even bigger chance of having a martial spirit. They could even have the possibility of holding martial spirits from both of their parents. For instance, Shiryan's body contained both the immortal martial spirit from the Yang family and the Shi family martial spirit. This type of person was someone blessed and loved by God and was very rare. However, when it comes to the children of most couples who have martial spirits, they might not be able to inherit martial spirits. The possibility of having double martial spirits was also extremely small. This natural law was also applicable in the Endless Sea. The reason why the soul-nurturing room was intriguing was because it could increase the chance of a newborn child having a martial spirit. If a couple in which one of them had a martial spirit had intercourse inside the soul-nurturing room, then the child they give birth to will have several times more chance of having a martial spirit compared with normal conditions. This was extremely magical since it almost countered the rules of the world. Every pair of parents who had martial spirits wished that their child would one day inherit their martial spirit. They wanted their own child to become one of the top and become a strong figure that would be seen by all. Because of that, there were many couples in the Endless Sea that would travel hundreds of li from other seas, in hopes that they could have intercourse inside the soul-nurturing room of the evil wonderland to raise the chances of a martial spirit for their future child. Of course, it was not that easy to get approval from the evil wonderland. The couples that came to the Endless Sea that wanted to enter into the soul-nurturing room had to join the evil wonderland first and become their people. This was the most basic condition. Only insiders could have the right to enter into the soul-nurturing room. In the past millennium, this rule had never changed. Other than that, there were also many types of other conditions. Normally, the evil wonderland would not accept the warriors from other forces in the Endless Sea. Even if they wanted to join the evil wonderland wouldn't take them in. To join the evil wonderland, one needed to have a clear background. They needed to be carefully inspected by the evil wonderland, and they needed to have strong warriors from the evil wonderland go deep into their memories and check everything through. Once it was ensured that there were no problems, then they would consider taking them in. Even people with clear backgrounds still needed go through the evil wonderland's test once again. They need to know the level and strength of the martial spirits of the parents. Only those with valuable martial spirits that would be beneficial to the future of the evil wonderland would be allowed passage. It could be said that the reason why the evil wonderland was one of the 15 great forces of the Endless Sea was because of the existence of the soul-nurturing room. Without the soul-nurturing room, the evil wonderland wouldn't have been able to gather so many strong and capable warriors, and they also wouldn't have had that many useful strong warriors. Thus, when it came to the usage of the soul-nurturing room, the evil wonderland couldn't be more careful. He-Chi-Man was conceived in the soul-nurturing room. She had the two different martial spirits of wind and water. The He family was already a family in the Kiara Sea with some reputation. One of He-Chingmon's parents had the wind martial spirit, and the other one had the water martial spirit. In order to make their child on top of others, He-Chingmon's parents approached the evil wonderland. After the evil wonderland carefully examined He-Chingmon's parents He-Luo and Su-Man, they became people of the evil wonderland and obtained the right to enter the soul-nurturing room. After He-Ching-Man was born, she luckily inherited both of the two different martial spirits from her parents. She was immediately taken to the treasure land by the evil wonderland and was trained as a genius with tremendous potential. She became the most outstanding young talent in the new generation of the evil wonderland. The evil wonderland was not a family. They had no martial spirit inheritance. They relied on the existence of the soul-nurturing room to become one of the three great forces in the Kiara Sea. But the Xia family was different. Xia Xinyan's reincarnation martial spirit was inherited from the Xia family. All of the descendants that held the Xia family bloodline had the possibility of possessing the reincarnation martial spirit. However, the reincarnation martial spirit of the Xia family was also differentiated between strong and weak. Although many people from the Xia family had the reincarnation martial spirit, they were generally all just useless martial spirits. If their past life was not a strong warrior of the martial arts, then, even if they had the reincarnation martial spirit, they still couldn't obtain much useful information from their past life. Some Xia family members were only gardeners, scholars, or students in their past life. Then the reincarnation martial spirit that they had would be nearly no help to their cultivation. These kinds of people had no importance in the Xia family. There were also some people who actually were warriors in their past life, but their realm was not high in the past life, being only in the disaster or earth realms. After obtaining the reincarnation martial spirit, the most they would have was understanding of the disaster and earth warrior realms, causing them be on their own after those realms. These kinds of people had some status in the Xia family, but also did not have a lot of importance. In the Xia family descendants that had the reincarnation martial spirit, only the ones who were warriors in their past life and had an extremely high realm could be considered talented material. The reincarnation martial spirit could then use the martial understanding and knowledge from their past life to instantly have a breakthrough and quickly enter into a new realm whenever they encounter a bottleneck during cultivation. The higher the realm of the warrior in their past life, the faster their cultivation speed would be. Martial cultivation with no bottlenecks had an extreme advantage against normal people. The reason why the reincarnation martial spirit had a strong and weak difference was also because of a crucial standard. In the vast majority of Xia family descendants, they could only obtain the martial insight and knowledge of their past life after they obtained the reincarnation martial spirit, but they couldn't get the reincarnation power of their past life. However, there was a few minority that not only could obtain the martial insight of their past life, they could even borrow the reincarnation power from their past life in times of crisis. If their realm in their past life was extremely high, the reincarnation power that they would be able to borrow would also be very terrifying. Xia Xinyan was such a blessed child. Using reincarnation power, she could enter into the sky realm in a short time. That meant that in Xia Xinyan's past life, her strongest warrior realm should have been the true god realm. Only those who had cultivated to the true god realm in their past life would be able to shortly enter into the sky realm using reincarnation power after they obtained their reincarnation martial spirit in this life. This was extremely frightening. The past life being a true god realm warrior meant that before Xia Xinyan cultivated to the true god realm, she could use martial insight from her past life to prevent bottlenecks during cultivation. This meant that Xia Xinyan was sure to become a true god realm warrior. Someday, by relying on this reincarnation martial spirit and through accumulating and cultivating for some time, under the situation where there was no bottleneck, Xia Xinyan would eventually enter into the true god realm as long as she stayed alive. Just by that, the Xia family had no reason not to spend all their efforts on Xia Xinyan. Think about it, if the Xia family were to have a true god realm warrior in the future, what kind of height would the Xia family reach in the future of the endless sea? And also because of that, Xia Xinyan's status was outstanding in the Xia family. This time Xia Xinyan's soul was heavily injured, and if the Xia family were to know it had something to do with Shi Yan, they would probably become furious. They might even go confront the Yang family because of this. When Mo Duanhuan talked about the wonders of Xia Xinyan's martial spirit, he also hinted that the Xia family would probably become enraged, telling Shi Yan to be careful. When they get to the Kiara Sea and they meet people from the Xia family, he better have a sense of propriety and not speak rashly. Else, he would affect the many years of friendly relationship between the two families. On the whole way there, Shi Yan learned many things about the evil wonderland and the Xia family through Mo Duanhuan. The evil wonderland had the soul-nurturing room, and the wonderland itself was an ancient treasure land that contained many wonderful martial skills. Through the soul-nurturing room, the evil wonderland gathered many strong warriors all around and obtained many warriors with different martial spirits. Their force was like a net that spread across the Kiara Sea, having an extraordinary influence in many of the other seas. The Xia family's reincarnation martial spirit was mysterious and unpredictable. They could obtain the martial insight of their past life and quickly break bottlenecks during cultivation. Some were even figures that defied the course of nature like Xia Xinyan, who were in the true god realm in their past life, and could borrow the reincarnation power of their past life to enter the sky realm for a short amount of time. Whether it be the evil wonderland or the Xia family, Mo Duanhuan's introduction caused Shi Yan to be stunned. Compared to the evil wonderland and the Xia family, the four families of the Merchant Union was indeed many times weaker. The resources that they controlled was also much worse. In contrast, the evil wonderland and the Xia family were already this strong and terrifying. Their forces were extremely magnificent. But in the Kiara Sea, they still willing to be under the Yang family and honor the Yang family as the true master of the Kiara Sea. Then exactly how strong was the Yang family? According to what Shi Yan knew, the Yang family had been suppressing the evil wonderland and the Xia family for centuries. In these centuries, the evil wonderland and the Xia family had never dared to challenge the Yang family's position in the Kiara Sea. They always followed their lead. Through what power did the Yang family use that such strong forces like the evil wonderland and the Xia family would be willing to bow to concede? Shi Yan was perplexed, so he asked Mo Duanhuan. However, Mo Duanhuan did not answer this question. He only said that once they get to Immortal Island, he will slowly understand. Shi Yan was filled with curiosity. He was looking forward to this journey to the Kiara Sea. Chapter 177, Firecloud Island. Chapter 177, Firecloud Island. Shi Yan bothered Mo Duanhuan the entire way. From his words, Shi Yan got a lot of information about the situation in the Kiara Sea. The Wind Thunder Lion that He Chi Man rode flew ahead of them during the entire journey. It was not too fast nor too slow, keeping a distance from the Cyan Bloodbats. Time flew by, and after half a month, the Cyan Bloodbats officially stepped into the Kiara Sea. 6 days later, they finally arrived at Firecloud Island. Just when the Cyan Bloodbats entered into the sky above Firecloud Island, a fiery ambience appeared in the air. This island's area was similar to that of Menluo Island. There were many volcanoes on the island, and the temperature was very high. But this island was rich in resources. It had many extraordinary minerals and some precious medicinal ingredients that liked high heat. The natural spirit energies on the island was also much denser than Cloud's Island. Therefore, on Firecloud Island, there were many cultivating warriors that were separated into some warrior forces. However, the warrior forces here compared to the Yang family, the evil wonderland, and the Xia family were much weaker. The strongest of the warrior forces was the He family. He Luo was the master of Firecloud Island, and also the person with the most authority on Firecloud Island. The many warrior forces on the island could all agree to that. Other than that, the He family certainly had outstanding capabilities. Another reason was that the He family was already a part of the evil wonderland. The islands in this area were all under the influence of the evil wonderland. The He family was like a branch of the evil wonderland and had made a talented genius like He Qingman for the evil wonderland. There was no way that the He family wouldn't flourish. Under the blazing sun, the Firecloud Island was like a giant steamer. Heat waves rolled on endlessly, and even the dirt on the island seemed to contain fire energies. When they arrived above Firecloud Island, Shi Yan finally knew why He Qingman dressed so lightly. The temperature here was so high, if she were to wear more, she would have probably been covered in sweat. He Qingman stood on the body of the Wind Thunder Lion while her speed slowed down a little. It seemed like she was waiting for something. Soon, the Cyan Bloodbat that carried Shi Yan slowly moved closer to the Wind Thunder Lion. On top of the Wind Thunder Lion, He Qingman's eyes were indifferent. She seemed to still hold a grudge against Shi Yan. However, when she was facing Emo Duanhuan, she was still quite respectful. She raised her voice and shouted, "Master Emo, since you came to Firecloud Island, please go rest in our family. If there is anything you need, we can talk about it then." The cyan blood bat was the symbol of the Yang family's Shura blood guards. When the cyan blood bat arrived at Firecloud Island, it had to have startled many warrior forces on the island. If the cyan blood bats went to the He family, then the Shura King Emo Duanhuan would be able to stay a night in the He family. To them, that would be a huge honor. If the warrior forces on the island were to know that Emo Duanhuan was residing in the He family, they would definitely respect and fear the He family more. The Yang family's status in the Kiara Sea was equal to the He family's status on Firecloud Island. As the leader of the three Shura kings, if Emo Duanhuan were to go to the He family, that would greatly raise the status of the He family. It would make the warrior forces on the island respect the He family more. He Manqing knew this, which was why she would put out the invite. She wouldn't give up this opportunity to raise the He family's authoritative power just because she hated Shuryen. Emo Duanhuan's expression was stiff as he sat on the cyan blood bat, not immediately answering. Instead, he looked towards Shuryen. The He family's head, He Luo, was only in the Nirvana realm. Although he claimed power on Firecloud Island, in Emo Duanhuan's eyes, he was just an insignificant character. In the families that Emo Duanhuan killed in the Endless Sea, many were much stronger than the He family, but they were all easily slaughtered by him. He came this time just for Shuryen. Through Shuryen's talent and secrets, he realized that Shuryen would become an important figure in the Yang family in the future, causing him to look at Shuryen. He Qingman saw that Emo Duanhuan looked towards Shuryen, causing her eyes to suddenly turn cold. She snorted in her mind, thinking that her plans were about to come to nothing. "Sure, we came to someone else's territory. We have to meet the master or else it would be too disrespectful." Unexpectedly for He Qingman, Shuryen smiled and actually nodded in approval. "We don't have to rush anyway. Let's rest and then ask about the situations of the volcanoes on Firecloud Island. It would do no harm to my upcoming plans." "All right." Emo Duanhuan finally nodded and then said to He Qingman, "Lead the way." He Qingman dazed for a second and then finally turned around, riding the Wind Thunder Lion towards the center of Firecloud Island. On the top of the cyan blood bat, Shuryen looked down and realized that Firecloud Island was really quite similar to Menluo Island. There were many volcanoes on the island as well as plants that only grew in tropical regions. The cyan blood bats flew across the heat waves. Half an hour later, it appeared in the middle of Firecloud Island and then slowly descended. This was a manor with hundreds of pavilions. Inside the manor, there were flowing streams and little bridges. Shrubs and plants were scattered around, and the pavilions here were all made of wood. They weren't too big or tall, and they gave an elegant and poetic feel. The cyan bloodbats hadn't landed yet, but a line of warriors already walked out with stunned expressions. They each stood in a giant training field and looked up into the sky. When the cyan bloodbats landed, He Luo, who was in the lead, was even more surprised. He stood there at a loss of words. "Father, this is Master Emo. He came this time to Firecloud Island for some business, and specially came to our He family to pay a visit to us." He Qingman was unruffled as she slowly came down from the Wind Thunder Lion and walked straight towards He Luo. She shouted, "Master Emo and I just returned from Cloud's Island. We are very tired from this trip. Father, tell someone to prepare a feast quickly." He Luo's body was thin. He had wisps of long beard at his chin. He was outstandingly handsome and with a graceful demeanor, had the special charm of a mature man. Next to him, other than some strong warriors from the He family, there were some leaders of the warrior forces on Firecloud Island. Originally, they gathered here today to discuss business. Suddenly, they saw that there were cyan bloodbats flying through the sky above, causing these people to panic. They didn't know why the Shura blood guards would appear on Firecloud Island, and hurriedly came out together to watch. When He Luo heard that it was Emo Duanhuan who came, his face immediately was filled with wild joy. With a radiant face he hurriedly came up, and then bowed in salutation. He said, Greetings to Master Mo. The He family is truly graced that Master Mo could come. The names of the 3 Shura kings of the Yang family were renowned in the Endless Sea. This was the first time for He Luo, who lived in the Kiara Sea, to meet Mo Duanhuan. He was pleasantly surprised and nervous at the same time, so he greeted with great gestures. Mo Duanhuan frowned. He didn't say anything and only slightly nodded. He Luo didn't think for a bit that Mo Duanhuan was roistering. With Mo Duanhuan's status, just nodding to him was giving him enough regards. Indeed, on the faces of the other family leaders of Firecloud Island that stood next to him, He Luo saw some signs of envy. Master Mo, please come in, please come in. He Luo nodded and bowed, and raised his voice to shout, prepare a feast, bring the best wines and dishes. It is the honor of Firecloud Island that Master Mo can come. This must not be neglected. Master Mo, I'll go change my clothes and groom myself. Excuse me. He Qingman slightly bowed towards Mo Duanhuan and then left with the Wind Thunder Lion. In the blink of an eye, she was gone without a trace. Master Mo, this way please. He Luo personally went in front and then tried to lead the way for Mo Duanhuan. His attitude was extremely friendly. Mo Duanhuan slightly frowned and then turned his head to look towards Shuryen. Shuryen smiled casually and then lightly nodded. Mo Duanhuan finally approved. He Luo and the many leaders on Firecloud Island were all extremely sensitive people. Their eyes all suddenly brightened and couldn't help but look at Shuryen. Their hearts were filled with surprise. Although Mo Duanhuan's movements were small, these people still saw it. As the leader of the 3 Shura kings, Mo Duanhuan actually personally consulted for this young man's opinion. Who is this guy? He Luo's face slightly changed. He became a little scared. He feared that he neglected the honored guest, and then hurriedly tried to fix his mistake. Master Mo, who is this young brother? The Firecloud Island is only a small place. We rarely get the blessing of such honorable guests. My knowledge is not very broad either. I am truly damned that I almost neglected our honored guest. Shuryen was stunned. He Luo had the cultivation level of the 2nd sky of Nirvana realm. The few people next to him were also each dressed in luxurious clothing, most having the cultivation in the Nirvana realm also. Just by standing there they showed this prestige, having a sharp presence on them. They were obviously figures who often gave out commands. These people, when treating Mo Duanhuan, all flattered to please him. It was as if Mo Duanhuan nodding to them was the most honor there would ever be. Through these small details, it wasn't hard for Shuryen to imagine exactly how distinguished the Yang family was in the Kiara Sea. Shuryen. Mo Duanhuan answered indifferently, not bothering to explain. He Luo and the rest were all obviously dazed, their eyes filled with surprise. He Luo and the rest, although they never met the young talents of the Yang family, they had heard of their names. They knew which were the strong figures of the Yang family's younger generation. But they had never heard of the name Shuryen. Shuryen's last name was Shur. Could it be that he wasn't a Yang family member? If he wasn't a Yang family member, then why would Mo Duanhuan consult his opinion? A boy who wasn't even a Yang family member. For what reason did Mo Duanhuan care about him so much? He Luo and the rest were inexplicably perplexed. They were all filled with confusion, but they didn't dare to neglect him. After chuckling for a second, He Luo didn't dare to ask more as he hurriedly said, "Please come in. Please come in. Master, the cyan blood bats should be fed now." At this moment, a Shura blood guard suddenly called out quietly. Mo Duanhuan nodded, and then he instructed He Luo, "Prepare some meats." He Luo nodded repeatedly, and then smilingly said, "Do not worry, we will guarantee your satisfaction, Master." Then He Luo raised his voice and shouted, "For the pride of our Kiara Sea, serve the cyan blood bats well." From behind the He family, there came sounds of beasts screaming. Soon, all kinds of fierce wild beasts were led out by He family members from behind, towards the training field. These lions, tigers, wolves, and leopards were all quite large and extremely fierce. But in front of the cyan blood bats, they were all shivering, seemingly very frightened. "Take them somewhere else to be fed. Let's not make their place too bloody." Shiryen smiled, and then said to the Shura blood guards. These people immediately nodded, and each warned their own mounts. The cyan blood bats all suddenly flew up and directly grabbed up the wild beasts here, flying towards the distance. Under the cyan blood bats, these wild beasts actually didn't fight back. They were all obediently brought up into the sky and soon disappeared without a trace. Soon enough, there came roars and screams of dying beasts from the distance. Master Mo, little brother Shiryen, please come in. He Luo kept on his face full of smiles as he said while bowing. Shiryen's expression remained unchanged. He followed He Luo with Mo Duanhuan while walking towards the back of the He family's manor. Chapter 178. Wanna bet? Chapter 178. Wanna bet? Firecloud Island, He family. In a giant magnificent hall, there was a display of an array of fruits and delicacies. Aromatic fine wine was carried bottle by bottle. The atmosphere in the hall was enthusiastic. He Luo's face was full of smiles as he kept toasting towards Mo Duanhuan. The other warrior force leaders on Firecloud Island also looked excited. Every time they toasted to Mo Duanhuan, they stood up on their own, in the most respectful way. Mo Duanhuan sat at the highest seat in the hall. His face was indifferent and didn't move at all. Even when people toasted to him, he only slightly nodded and drained his cup. Shiryen sat next to Mo Duanhuan. There was a faint smile on his face as he quietly observed everyone in the hall. These prominent people in Firecloud Island, when facing Mo Duanhuan, were all very courteous and smiled in flattery. If Mo Duanhuan slightly nodded at them, they would seem extremely flattered. To Shiryen that looked very funny. Mo Duanhuan was from the Yang family, and he was the leader of the 3 Shura kings. In the Kiara Sea, he was the most distinguished figure. The fact that he could come to the He family, to sit and drink with these people, was giving a lot of regard to the He family. Even the people who came to discuss important business with the He family were also following along to get the honor. These people may be considered with a very high status on Firecloud Island, but compared with Mo Duanhuan, there was an insurmountable distance. They weren't even qualified to enter Immortal Island. In the past, they only heard of the famous name of Mo Duanhuan and had never met him. Today they finally caught the opportunity. Naturally, they wouldn't let it go. They used all sorts of flattery to try to get a closer relationship with Mo Duanhuan, hoping that they would leave a good impression in Mo Duanhuan's mind. Even though the Firecloud Island was under the influence of the evil Wonderland, but it was what the Yang family say that counts in the Kiara Sea. They have to travel through the Kiara Sea all the time. If someday they were careless and annoyed the Yang family, then if Mo Duanhuan could say some good words for them, it could even save their entire force. Therefore, when they were treating Mo Duanhuan, it could be said that they were the most dedicated ever, just in hope that they could leave some good impression. Of course, because of a small detail from Mo Duanhuan before, although they weren't clear of Shiryen's true identity, they were still very careful. When trying to please Mo Duanhuan, they didn't forget Shiryen and frequently toasted to him. Shiryen didn't reject any of them. Whenever someone toasted to him, he would drain his cup without a trace of arrogance. Because the temperature on Firecloud Island was very high, the tropical fruits produced here also had their specialties. They were sweet and delicious. Naturally, Shiryen didn't hold back. He tasted each of these fruits and seemed quite comfortable. Midway during the feast, He Luo let out a command, and many beautiful girls dressed in exposing clothing, wearing light veils, and holding instruments, came slowly. These women's bright eyes were seductive. They exposed their fair-skinned arms and flexible waists, dancing in the empty space of the hall. They occasionally winked at Mo Duanhuan and Shiryen with a flattering look that seemed like they were offering themselves. Mo Duanhuan didn't show any reaction to this. His expression was stiff, like he doesn't seem to care about this. Shiryen's expression was also indifferent. He didn't overly expose his true nature. He drank his wine, while smilingly looking at the beautiful, slim, and graceful girls at the same time. The 7 girls were all young and beautiful. Their bodies were curvy, and when they danced, their breasts bounced, looking very seductive. The most rare thing was that these girls seemed to know their mission. They also knew that the ones sitting in front of them were all distinguished figures. They would dance their bodies in front of Emo Duanhuan and Shiryen, vaguely displaying the most wonderful parts of their bodies, looking as if these men were allowed to do whatever they want. He Luo's face was full of smiles while he secretly observed. Whenever Emo Duanhuan and Shiryen displayed any interest, he would later make arrangements to make these girls go find Shiryen and Emo Duanhuan at night, to offer up the even better wonders of these women's bodies for Shiryen and Emo Duanhuan to slowly taste. Emo Duanhuan never liked women. This point, most warriors of the Kiara Sea knew clearly. He Luo secretly observed for a while, and also realized the Emo Duanhuan really seemed to have no interest in beautiful women. He had a general idea of things in his mind, so he threw away the thought of presenting these Emo Duanhuan. Instead, he put more attention on Shiryen. Although Shiryen didn't reveal his true nature, but when seeing these beautiful things, he didn't fake or hide anything. His eyes showed a look of admiration, and he openly looked at the bodies of all these beautiful women. He Luo's heart felt happy. He slowly got a good idea, and once the feast ends he was planning to let these 7 girls go to Shiryan's room together, and let him select any of them. Soon, these 7 girls quietly left, but before they went away, these 7 girls secretly threw winks at Shiryen with their amorous eyes. These 7 girls are the 7 gold flowers of our Firecloud Island. They are still virgins and have very high standards. Normally, when honored guests come, they would dance to one song and leave quickly. But today I see that these 7 girls are quite fond of little brother. They kept looking towards him. Little brother sure has outstanding charms. After those 7 girls left, He Luo laughed and said casually. There was a smile on Shiryan's lips. He slightly shook his head. Of course he knew what He Luo meant. He also knew these 7 girls were definitely the most precious treasures of He Luo. The reason why He Luo would keep these girls as virgins was to use them at crucial moments. Normally, he would be unwilling to take them out because he didn't find any truly distinguished figures to please. When He Luo said it this way, it was obvious that he was going to pay a very high price. If Shiryen nodded, He Luo would probably make arrangements immediately. Later these girls might directly appear in his room. Shiryen was clear of the situation. If it were in the past, with his personality, he would probably not pretend to be a good guy and would happily enjoy pleasure. But now Xia Xinyan was still unconscious, and it was due to her trying to save him. This gave Shiryen a giant pressure in his heart. He didn't have the heart to mess around with girls, and thus shook his head to refuse He Luo's good intentions. He Luo was slightly surprised. He thought that with Shiryan's age, he shouldn't have much resistance in front of beauty. These 7 girls were carefully selected by him. Each had the most attractive appearances, plus they had sexy bodies and were all virgins. He Luo had a lot of confidence in these girls. Even when he was facing these 7 girls, it was often hard for him to control himself. He secretly observed Shiryen for a while. From Shiryen's expression and the look in his eyes, he thought Shiryen definitely wouldn't refuse this appealing proposal. So when Shiryen shook his head, He Luo was very surprised. Father, to achieve his goal, this guy would sacrifice any incredible beauty, mindless 7 little golden flowers. Then at this moment, He Qingman's sweet voice suddenly came from behind the hall. Just when her voice came, He Qingman slowly walked here, and her beauty shocked all. He Qingman wore a purple thin dress. The hem of the dress was embroidered with beautiful flowers. Her long hair laid on her shoulders like silk, and her long, thin, amorous eyes were filled with sparkling charm. After taking off her veil, her cheeks were pink and cute, her beautiful lips were alluring. Her skin was fair as snow, with a strange glow like that of jade. Her curvy, beautiful figure was enchantingly attractive. Inside the hall, the eyes of many warriors brightened. Their expressions were all a little intoxicated. For a while, the hall that was originally loud with chatter actually strangely became quiet. Even Emo Duanhuan raised his head and glanced at He Qingman and was surprised by her impressive beauty. Shiryen glimpsed at He Qingman, his eyes also abruptly brightened. Although he didn't like this woman, but he was still mesmerized by her beauty. He Qingman actually had the same level of extreme beauty as Xia Xinyan. Xia Xinyan was noble and graceful, while He Qingman was enchanting and charming. Although their styles were different, they were both born incredibly beautiful. Whether it be their faces or their bodies, all were perfect. Old He, your little girl really grew to be more and more pretty. I wonder which family's boy would get the pleasure in the future. A red-faced man called Wu Mu couldn't help but compliment, Qi-man is really a bright pearl of our Kiara Sea. AI, too bad my boy's potential is not that great, and didn't get chosen by the evil Wonderland. He probably won't have a chance in his whole life. Wu Mu, with your family's boy, he dares craving for something he's not worthy of? This girl Qi-man would definitely become an important figure in the evil Wonderland. In the Kiara Sea, even if boys from the Xia or Yang families tried to woo her, the evil Wonderland probably won't allow it. Let's not think of it. Right, Qi-man is the most precious treasure in the evil Wonderland. Only young strong warriors from the evil Wonderland like Xia Kuei would have the possibility of being approved by the evil Wonderland and have the right to pursue Qi-man. Old He, you really have amazing luck, you got a good daughter. The many people in the hall all smilingly praised and admired that He Luo had great luck. He had a daughter that was not only incredibly beautiful, but also had the double martial spirits of wind and water. She was treated as a genius with potential and helped the He family into becoming the master of Firecloud Island. Their future power would definitely increase as He Qi-man gets stronger. He Luo laughed. He was also quite joyful as he said, "You guys work harder. Maybe you would be able to give birth to a good talent in the future, haha." He Luo purposely dodged He Qingman's accusation towards Shiryen. He didn't know who Shiryen was, but he knew that Mo Duanhuan valued Shiryen very much. Just by that, he wouldn't dare to insult Shiryen. Shiryen frowned. He pretended as if he didn't hear He Qingman's words. He only dismissively glanced at the charmingly beautiful He Qingman and stayed indifferent. "We can discuss business now." Mo Duanhuan sat up straight and said lightly. In his eyes, He Luo and these people weren't any important figures. They weren't even from the evil Wonderland. In the moment, he was only dealing with them and didn't say much on the feast. Because of He Qingman's outstanding talent, plus she was a strong warrior with potential in the evil Wonderland, her future was boundless. Therefore, Mo Duanhuan took a slight bit of attention with that and only brought up the business about this journey when He Qingman appeared. All right. He Luo smilingly stood up. He glanced at the many warriors in the hall and smiled. "It's quite late now, little brothers. Shouldn't you go back and rest now?" These people were quite understanding. They all stood up when they heard him. With smiles on their faces, they said their goodbyes with Mo Duanhuan and Shiryen. They actually wanted to stay and listen, but unfortunately Mo Duanhuan didn't open his mouth to say anything, so they didn't dare to hang on and stay. In a mere moment, these people all left without a trace. Soon, the leftover delicacies and wine in the hall were cleaned up by the He family's maids. Then the unimportant personnel all disappeared too. All that was left was the father and daughter He Luo and He Qingman, sitting firmly in front of Mo Duanhuan and Shiryen. "Why did you come to Firecloud Island? Why do you want to find a 10,000-year-old volcano?" He Qingman's eyes were bright. Her sweet voice spoke while staring at Shiryen. "I want to save Xinyan." Shiryen frowned and said with a deep voice, "A 10,000-year-old volcano can save Sister Xinyan?" He Qingman's face was filled with disbelief. She shook her head and said in disdain, "I have never heard of that. What has awakening the soul got to do with volcanoes? There are a lot of things you haven't heard of." Shiryen was indifferent. He said lightly, "If I said I can save her, then I can. You want to bet?" "Bet? What are we betting on?" He Qingman's interest suddenly surged as her bright eyes sparkled. Chapter 179, I'll bet with you. Chapter 179, I'll bet with you. What a bet on? He Luo and Mo Duanhuan both looked at Shiryan, wondering what he wanted to bet on. Shiryan was slightly dazed too, as his expression froze. He was only joking and didn't really want to bet on anything at all. But once the words came out of his mouth, he realized that He Manqing seemed to be very interested, and she immediately replied. This somewhat took him by surprise. The smile on He Luo's lips suddenly froze. He said awkwardly, "Qing Man, your bad habit is back again." What Shiryan didn't know was that this enchanting beauty He Qing Man liked to make bets with people. Her whole life, she would bother others to make bets because of many small things. He Luo had quite a headache due to her strange quirk. He sometimes wondered why this girl loved betting with people that much. When Shiryan casually mentioned betting, He Luo immediately knew that his daughter would definitely ask back and would never let this bet go. He knew that He Qing Man not only liked to bet with people, but her gambling manners were also not great. When she won, she would be cheery and joyful. If she lost, she would get furious. Once he heard that Shiryan was going to bet with her, He Luo couldn't stop smiling bitterly in his head, knowing that this would be bad. "Father, leave this to me." He Qing Man glared at him. She raised her head and said arrogantly, "All my life, when I bet with other people, I rarely lose." Right, of course you wouldn't lose. Everyone knows that once you lose, you would definitely burst out in anger and will use all sorts of methods to get rid of the humiliation. Who would dare to win against you? He Luo's face was bitter. His expression was turning more and more strange. "Come on, what do you want to bet on?" He Qing Man was excited. Her cheeks were flushed, and her amorous eyes were gleaming with mysterious light. She intensely stared at Shiryan, looking truly like an obsessed gambler. Shiryan was stunned. He looked at her with a weird look in his eyes. "How do you want to bet?" "However you want." He Qing Man snorted lightly. She said arrogantly, "Anyway, I definitely won't lose." "Fuck." Shiryan's brow twitched. His temper got provoked by her. He squinted at her and scanned her from head to toe. There was a lecherous look in his eyes. "Asshole. What are you looking at?" He Qing Man's bright eyes were filled with rage. "I'll gouge your eyes out." He Qing Man was in the first sky of Earth Realm. In the young generation of the evil Wonderland, she was one of the top strong warriors. Even in the entire Kira Sea, it was very rare to have someone so young step into such realms. The evil Wonderland must have spent a lot of precious medicines and treasures to make her so overbearing. "What am I looking at?" Shiryan slightly squinted his eyes and had an idea in his mind. His smile also slowly became strange. He provoked her. "Naturally, I'm looking at you. How about this? If you lose, you'll strip down naked and let me look at your body for 1 minute. Dare to take the bet?" "Bastard! What did you say?" He Qing Man suddenly stood from her seat. Her entire face was flushed, and she said in anger, "I dare you to say that again." He Luo dazed for a second. His expression also darkened. He snorted, "Little brother, molesting my daughter in front of my face isn't very appropriate now, is it?" "I was just joking." Shiryan laughed and shook his head. "Then there's nothing worth betting for." "Honestly, I don't lack anything, so if there is no interesting thing to bet on, I won't bother betting with you." "You." He Qing Man clenched her teeth and glared at Shiryan fiercely. Her breasts rose as she breathed, and her eyes were gleaming with cold light. He Luo snorted lightly and tried to persuade her. "Qing Man, just forget it." I see that he was just joking. He meant no offense. "What do you have?" He Qing Man bit her bottom lip. She took a big breath in and sneered. "Want to see my body? Do you have enough for the bargain?" "It's not that I don't dare to make the bet. As long as you have a good enough bargaining chip, I don't mind making a big bet with you." "Are you for real?" Shiryan's face was full of surprise. He smiled bitterly. "I really was just joking. Are you actually thinking about betting?" "Qing Man." He Luo roared. He Qing Man's status in the evil Wonderland was special. She would definitely become a distinguished figure in the evil Wonderland in the future. He Luo knew that his girl was what many young talented men in the Liara Sea dreamed of, and that they were obsessed over her. He could easily send the 7 gold flowers to Yan's room without hesitation, for Yan to do as whatever he pleased. But with his precious daughter, he loved her dearly. He didn't want Man to be damaged in any way. If this time Man were really to lose the bet, then with Huan's position in the Yang family, if they were to really hold on to this, he really couldn't deny. If Man were really to be seen naked by Yan, this would have a huge impact on her reputation. It could even make Man unable to find a good spouse. Maybe even the evil Wonderland would blame them. He couldn't afford it. He also didn't want to use his daughter's reputation to bet for some item. Father, leave this. Man insisted. She raised her head, and her face turned cold. I just won't believe that he can awaken Sister Xinyan. Sister Xinyan's soul was heavily injured by the demon master Mojito. The reincarnation martial spirit defended against his one wave of attack, but due to the power of his attack her soul got in disorder. Now her memories from the past few lives are all tangled up together, and she fell into the deepest level of stillness. I don't even know a method to make Sister Xinyan wake up. Man simply explained what happened in that valley on Cloud's Island. Luo was startled upon hearing that. His expression was extremely appalled. The demon master Mojito's soul befell, and the demon king Bo Sun displayed his skeletal avatar. The scenes that happened inside the valley made Luo dumbfounded. He could never have imagined that Xinyan's injury was a heavy damage to her soul. Plus that the one who attacked was the demon master Mojito. A while ago when Xinyan was carried into the backyard by Qingmon's Wind Thunder Lion, Luo thought Xinyan only got injuries on her body, so he didn't put it to heart. He also knew that once Xinyan's reincarnation martial spirit gets used, and borrows the reincarnation power from the past life, afterwards her body was be heavily damaged, and would possibly go unconscious. He always thought that was Xinyan's situation. Now that Man said it, he realized that Xinyan's injuries were much worse than he had imagined. As the master of Firecloud Island, with his cultivation in the Nirvana realm, Luo had heard about injuries to the soul. Back then the Xia family also had another strong warrior who had the same type of soul damage and was mixed in with the memories from the past life. Then he never woke up and became someone who was as good as dead. Luo knew that even the Xia family would probably not be able to do anything. At the time, the Xia family had a strong warrior who had the same situation as Xinyan. In order to wake up that person, the Xia family used all their power. They even went to find the evil Wonderland and the Yang family to figure out a solution. The 3 forces discussed this together and seemed to have found a method. At last they tried it, but not only did it not make that person wake up, it actually made that person's soul collapse and caused an early death. From that time on, situations like this became a difficult problem with no solution. Which was also why when Duanhuan knew about Xinyan's condition, he shook his head and sighed. A type of problem like this that even the 3 forces couldn't solve together. What makes this kid capable? Luo dazed for a moment. Then when he looked at Yan again, he also thought that Yan was just kidding. He definitely wouldn't have the power to awaken Xinyan, so Luo had rest assured. Man saw that her father stopped talking. She naturally knew that her father realized Yan would not win. Man snorted and looked at Yan in disdain. Do you know my worth? You want to look at my body? Do you have enough of a bargaining chip? Man. Luo coughed and frowned. Little brother was just kidding. Don't take it too seriously. Due to Duanhuan's high regard of Yan, Luo was also scared that if he Manching urged too much, Duanhuan wouldn't be happy. Besides that, even though he knew that Yan would lose, Luo still didn't want to use his daughter's body to bet on such a thing. After all, if the word of this spread, it wouldn't be very pretty, and it would still impact his daughter's reputation. Seeing that Man was so aggressive, Yan, who was just going to let it go, suddenly frowned. She had actually provoked his anger. Taking in a deep breath, Yan was silent. He quietly opened the backpack behind him and took out 7 different colored, but all bright and gleaming demon crystals. These 7 demon crystals all came from level 7 demon beasts. 7 pieces of level 7 demon crystals. Once the 7 demon crystals came out, the hall was lit up with light. The bright crystal lights dazzled the eyes and shone dreamy lights into the hall. Emo Duanhuan's eyes brightened. He looked at Shuryen and felt a little surprised. Demon crystals. He Luo exclaimed, "What level are these?" Level 7. They're all level 7 demon crystals, Shuryen said in a deep voice. He Qingman was also stunned. A strange light flashed across her beautiful eyes as she blankly stared at these 7 pieces of level 7 demon crystals. Level 7 demon beasts were comparable with Sky Realm Masters. Demon crystals were also the source of power for demon beasts. They had many incredible uses. Not only could they be used as a main ingredient in a medicine, but they could also temper and refine other godly weapons. For some warriors that cultivate secret skills, if they obtain a demon crystal of the same element, they would definitely improve greatly in power. Even in the Endless Sea, demon crystals were extremely precious items. Level 7 demon crystals were even more rare and precious. Not to mention, 7 pieces at once. 7 level 7 demon crystals, 2 in them are of the wind element, 1 is of the water element. Emo Duanhuan stared at these 7 demon crystals for a while, then said these words abruptly. The father and daughter He Luo and He Qingman both shook. Their faces were filled with disbelief. The martial spirit on He Luo was of the wind element, and He Qingman had both elements of wind and water. If these level 7 demon crystals were to fall upon their hands, it could possibly greatly improve their martial spirits, and even evolve the martial spirit one step more. He Luo felt like his breathing was becoming rapid. The look in his eyes also became more and more passionate. 7 pieces of level 7 demon crystals, I'll put all of them as bargaining chips. Shuryen's expression was indifferent. He looked deeply at the beautiful-bodied He Qingman and said lightly, "Is that enough?" He Qingman's pretty face was flushed, her breathing was rapid, and her bright eyes gave off a stunning light. Her teeth bit on her lower lip as she stared straight at Shuryen. He Luo licked his lips. He wanted to advise He Qingman not to take the deal. But looking at those 2 pieces of level 7 demon crystals of the wind element, he couldn't let any words out. Those 2 level 7 demon crystals of the wind element were too perfect for him. His eyes couldn't even move away from those 2 demon crystals. "I'll bet with you." After a few repeated deep breaths, He Qingman suddenly clenched her teeth and shouted. Her beautiful supple face was filled with determination. Chapter 180. Depends on my mood. Chapter 180. Depends on my mood. That night, the father and daughter He Luo and He Qingman, after Shuryen and Emo Duanhuan left, were still sitting in the hall. "Qingman, what is the background of that kid? Why would Master Emo value him that much?" "He's the Yang family's lost child. He had been living in a remote area all along. After Yang Qingdi came out of his deep cultivation, he seemed to have used the Great Oracle to find him. That is why he sent people there to escort him back to the Endless Sea." He Qingman thought for a moment, and then said, "This person is heartless. Because of him, Sister Xinyan blocked Mojito's soul attack. But not only is he not sad, he can even smile at that. He is truly the most faithless person. How would the Xia girl know him?" The area where he was sent out a letter, saying that a fragment map of a gate of heaven appeared. Sister Xinyan was ordered to go investigate about the gate of heaven and happened to meet him. I don't know why, but Sister Xinyan seems to attach a lot of importance to him. I can see that Sister Xinyan seems to have some feelings for him. He Qingman explained to He Luo about everything she knew of Shuryen. This kid should be 21 years old right now, with the cultivation level of the second sky of Disaster Realm. He's not that weak. He Luo pondered for a moment and furrowed his brows, but in the Yang family, there are many boys who can reach to his level. Why would Yang Qingdi value him that much? I heard from Sister Xinyan that he only started cultivating the martial arts at the age of 17. Before the age of 17, he had no trace of profound qi on him. Which means that, in the short span of 4 years, he reached to the second sky of Disaster Realm. Even I didn't believe it. I thought Sister Sinyan might have been exaggerating. What? He Luo's face changed. How is that possible? Even in our endless sea, there is no one who can step into such a high realm in such a short time. How is that possible? I didn't believe it either. It shouldn't be true. He Luo was silent for a moment and then shook his head. No one can cultivate to such a profound realm this fast. There is no force in the endless sea that would be able to do that. Needless to say, that remote little place. And then, I also thought Sister Sinyan might have been fooled by him. Qi-Man nodded. Qi-Man, this bet really shouldn't have been made. He Luo sighed. Why shouldn't I? Qi-Man frowned with her pretty brows. She snorted with her sweet voice. He was the one that insisted on giving us the demon crystals. It would be a waste not to take it. I don't believe that he can solve a problem that even the three forces combined couldn't solve together. I know he can't do it. He Luo nodded. He naturally thought that Yan definitely wouldn't be able to do anything, but if we just took his 7 pieces of level 7 demon crystals through bet, it wouldn't be proper. Master Amo is watching this. Afterwards, wouldn't he think that us two are swindling him? Qi-Man's pretty face was angry. This pervert. He dared to have those thoughts about me. Then he deserved it. I'm afraid that if the Yang family knew about this, they would feel resentful. He Luo sighed. It's not easy for the He family to reach its place now. You know about the Yang family's forces in the Kiara Sea. If the Yang family were to feel discontent, then your father I would have to do everything with caution from here on after. If the Yang family were to catch our wrongdoings, then our entire family would crumble. Father, you're thinking too much. Although the Yang family is arrogant, they wouldn't be that unreasonable. Qi-Man comforted him. Besides, our He family is a part of the evil wonderland. Even if the Yang family gives no regard to our family, they would have to give some face to the evil wonderland. They wouldn't act recklessly. Hopefully that will be the case. He Luo was still a little worried. He pondered for a moment and said, afterwards we will just take those 3 pieces that are of the wind and water elements. Although the rest are just as precious, they are not what we need. Taking 4 pieces less means that even if the Yang family were to know, they shouldn't really become angry. That depends on how he will behave. Qi-Man raised her head and said angrily, he is too despicable. How dare he ask of such a rude proposal? If I don't teach him a lesson, then he'll really think we're easy to bully. I'm doing this to avenge Sister Sinyan too, so this heartless guy can know that women are not to be messed with. He Luo shook his head and gave a wry smile. Oh dear, why would you even take this kind of bet? Fortunately, only the 4 of us know, or else if this news gets out there, it would be very harmful to your reputation. Father won't tell, I definitely won't tell either, and Master Amo is not that kind of person. This kid will lose for sure, so, naturally, he won't tell such an embarrassing thing. There is nothing to worry about. Qi-Man didn't care, no one will know, so there won't be any rumors. Father, you rest assured. After Qi-Man put it this way, He Luo thought it for a second, and also slightly set his mind at ease. That's true. No one will know about this, and this won't affect you either. Hope that kid would keep his mouth shut, so he won't speak recklessly when he gets drunk, or else it would really be bad. How dare he? Qi-Man clenched her teeth and said coldly, if I were to know about it, I will teach him a lesson. The He family's backyard, in a spacious room. Amo Duanhuan frowned. In a rare manner he actually chose to speak on his own. Back in the day there was one person in the Xia family that had the same symptoms as the Xia girl. It's also a problem with the reincarnation martial spirit, and the memories got in disorder. That person had outstanding talent. For him, the Xia family came to the evil wonderland and us to find a solution. The 3 forces together thought of one method to try to awaken that person, but failed in the end. And instead, that person died early. Amo Duanhuan raised his head and stared at Yan. Even the 3 forces couldn't solve this problem. Young Master Yan, why are you so confident? You also don't believe I can solve this? Yan smiled indifferently. Amo Duanhuan furrowed his brows. It's not that I don't believe, only that I don't know. I don't know if there is a method to solve this problem. I know you don't believe me. Shuryen smiled. He didn't really care, but don't worry, if I dare to use 7 pieces of level 7 demon crystals to make a bet, naturally I would have some confidence. With things I am not certain of, I would never accept that straightforwardly. Don't worry, I won't be the one to lose. The He family's girl has a great relationship with the Xia family's girl. Even if you won, are you really going to let the He girl strip down naked, to let you look for a minute? The look in Mo Duanhuan's was extremely strange. Depends on my mood. Shuryen chuckled. Maybe I'll look, and maybe I won't. We'll see. Mo Duanhuan dazed for a moment and shook his head. After a while, Mo Duanhuan seemed to suddenly remember something, and then said again, Young Master Yan, are you really going to go into a 10,000-year-old volcano? Inside the heart of the 10,000-year-old volcano, the fire is too strong. Even I can't easily follow you down. If you are really to get in, you have to be very careful. I know. The core fire of the 10,000-year-old volcano is one of the many types of earth fire. It is one of the 9 most scorching yang-powered strange treasures in the world. If you can see the core fire, then you should collect it if you get the opportunity. But the core fire is extremely hot. It needs a special container to put in. The materials needed to make that container aren't very rare, and it is not very hard to make either. Our Yang family has a few, but I don't have any on me right now. Tomorrow we can ask the He family to see if the He family has that sort of container. Shuryen's eyes brightened. He said in joy, core fire. If making the container of the core fire is not hard, then since the He family has stayed on Firecloud Island for so long, wouldn't they know how to gather core fire? Impossible. Mo Duanhuan shook his head. The container for the core fire is not very precious, but the core fire itself is. Even if they had that sort of container, to obtain the core fire, first they have to enter the heart of the 10,000-year-old volcano. Even I wouldn't dare to go into the heart of the volcano. It would be even more impossible for the He family to have that capability. Is that so? Young Master Yan has the ice-cold flame, so you actually have the opportunity to enter into the heart of the volcano. But others don't have that kind of ability. Mo Duanhuan nodded. I will ask He Luo tomorrow. If he doesn't have it, I will send a message to the Yang family and ask them to send the containers here. But that would take up more time. All right. The morning of the second day, He Luo personally came to greet Mo Duanhuan. Mo Duanhuan was very direct. After nodding, he immediately asked, Does the He family have purified bottles? Purified bottles, a type of bottles made from combining 8 types of cold metals and minerals. It could be used to contain the core fire. The purified bottles weren't very precious, but normal people didn't know how to make them. Because after making the purified bottles, they could only be used to contain the core fire and had no other use. Only the masters who wanted to collect the core fire would make these in advance. Normal weaponsmiths wouldn't try to make purified bottles. Purified bottles? He Luo dazed, the purified bottles that can contain core fire. Mo Duanhuan nodded. I will go ask my good-for-nothing son. That kid doesn't learn the right paths. Instead, he always likes to play with these little things. A while back I heard he wanted to make purified bottles, hoping that one day he would have the luck to collect core fire. I don't know if he made it or not. He Luo hesitated for a moment, then said, Please wait for a moment, Master Mo. I will send someone to call him here immediately. Okay, come. A haggard-faced old man appeared shortly. He stood firmly in front of He Luo and said respectfully, I am here. Call the boy He Lai here. If he has any purified bottles on him, then tell him to bring them here directly. He Luo instructed. I will. After 5 minutes. A lazy-looking He Qing man, with her bright eyes, and a little fat boy who looked somewhere above 10 years old, came together. Under the morning sunlight, He Qing man was radiant. With her beautiful figure and long beautiful legs, she walked in an amorous way. It dazzled people's eyes. Shuryen glanced at her and quietly praised her in his mind. He had to admit that this woman was truly extremely beautiful. That enchanting temperament could really make any man's heart skip a beat. The little fat boy behind He Qing man looked somewhat like He Luo. Unfortunately, his body was fat, the look in his eyes was a little perverted, plus his back was a little arched. Next to He-Ching-man, he was really tragic to look at. Imo-Duanhuan also dazed for a second. He looked at He-Lai and asked He-Luo with a strange feeling, "This is your little son?" Cough, cough. He-Luo was a little embarrassed. He chuckled dryly. "He was born from me and my wife's servant. His potential is a little poor and has an unruly nature and wants to become a weaponsmith very badly, so he plays with his mess of stuff all day. But because he doesn't have a fire martial spirit in him, so no real weaponsmith would want to accept him as an apprentice. This kid often borrowed fire from the volcanoes here to make some little things. Although they're hard to make into distinguished places, but sometimes he can really make some useful things." "Father, what did you find me for?" "After coming here," He-Lai said smilingly, "Sister was making me prepare some materials that will assist her in absorbing wind and water-type demon crystals. I'm busy right now, I don't have any free time." "Shut up." He-Chi-man threw a glare at the boy. He-Luo was also a little awkward. He kept chuckling. Shurian's expression didn't change, but he snorted coldly inside. From the looks of things, the father and daughter, He-Luo and He-Chi-man, seemed to have confirmed that he was going to lose for sure. They actually already started preparing to absorb the wind and water demon crystals. They really didn't take him seriously. Chapter 181. Winning and losing are very important. Chapter 181. Winning and losing are very important. "Do you have purified bottles?" He-Luo glared and coldly snorted, with his face was filled with discontent. The little fat boy, He-Lai, was startled. He secretly glimpsed at Imo-Duanhuan and Shurian. The fat on his face piled up as he pushed an ugly smile. "There are purified bottles, but only semi-finished products. I gathered all of the materials and put them inside a small volcano's lava for 7 days. But it only made the prototype of the purified bottle. The density of the smelting process was not enough. The firepower was not enough either. The temperature of the lava is limited. I still can't refine all of the impurities in the materials." The little fat boy put up a crying face. He took an ugly-looking, dark brown bottle with many spots covering it. He-Luo frowned. "Is there a way to make this semi-finished product complete? If I can find lava with higher temperature, give me half a day, and I will be able to make it into a finished product." He-Lai's eyes brightened. "But if the temperature of the lava is too high, I won't be able to handle it, so I tried to finish it. Plus, I also think that I probably don't have a chance of obtaining an earth fire, so I stopped thinking about it afterwards." "You brat, you can't do anything right." He-Luo yelled out in anger. He shook his head and sighed. "If you can put some thought into just one thing, in the end you wouldn't have achieved nothing at all." He-Lai was also a warrior, but he was only in the third sky of nascent realm. He-Luo spent quite a lot of efforts on him. Every time He-Ching-man returned from the evil wonderland, she would also use some of her hidden elixirs on her naughty little brother. But this kid was really disappointing. Up to now he was still in the third sky of nascent realm. This gave quite the headache to He-Luo and He-Ching-man. Although He-Ching-man and He-Lai were born from different mothers, but since He-Lai's mother was the servant of He-Ching-man's mother, and she had been with He-Ching-man's mother since she was little, she was very close with He-Ching-man's mother. Plus, although He-Lai was naughty, he was still very close with his sister. This also made He-Ching-man like He-Lai a lot, and she had been taking care of this little brother all along. Even though they had different mothers, these siblings were very close. Seeing that He-Lai was so disappointing, He-Ching-man also secretly felt angry. She threw a fierce glare at him. He-Lai felt extremely wronged. He dropped his head low and murmured under his breath, "You guys won't help me. If you were to have helped me, I would have made the purified bottles long ago. I even begged you guys before to let you guys accompany me to a volcano to refine it." "Shut up," He-Luo scolded. Before, when He-Luo knew He-Lai wanted to make purified bottles, he only thought that He-Lai was being ignorant and incompetent. Making purified bottles needed some quite uncommon materials. Plus, after they were made, if one cannot collect core fire, then they would still be useless. Therefore, He-Luo did not care about this, and when He-Lai begged him, he actually yelled at him. He didn't know that Emodwanhuin would need this thing. Now after Heli spoke, it seemed that he was actually at fault. This really made Luo so angry that he wanted to punch someone. It's all right. Shuryen smiled, find a volcano, and we can just refine it again. Let's go together. I can't handle volcanoes that are too hot. Heli shook his head repeatedly. His face was full of fear. I've tried. I almost got cooked alive. If no one can give me protection, I wouldn't dare to. This is for you. Shuryen thought this kid was quite interesting. He casually took out a green moonstone and threw it to Heli. He smiled. Take this stone. From now on, if you want to refine something, you can go to a volcano with higher temperature. No need to worry about being cooked in there. This piece of green moonstone contained the cold energy of the ice-cold flame. Touching it would make one's entire body cold. With the cold energy's protection, indeed he should have no fear of entering places of high temperature. Hey, it's so cold. Heli caught the green moonstone and immediately exclaimed. He hurriedly used a piece of thick oilcloth to wrap it. He said in joy, not bad, not bad. Inside there is very strong cold energy. With this treasure, I would be able to make purified bottles. It would definitely be no problem. Shuryen smiled and then said, be careful where you put it. If that thing were to be hit forcefully, it would explode. The cold energy inside would all burst out. It can immediately make a disaster realm warrior freeze to death. Hearing this, Heli got startled. The fat on his body jiggled as he anxiously held on tight to the green moonstone. Who made this thing? The little fat boy looked at the green moonstone. He observed for a moment and suddenly shook his head. This is made very badly. There are still many impurities on the surface. There are even more impurities inside. The fire power is not enough, and the skill used to make this is extremely poor. It's a pity for the cold energy that it contains. If I were to have material that is as good as this, I would make something several times better than this. This is truly a waste of great resources. The guy that made this thing is too much of a rookie, such a waste. The little fat boy kept shaking his heat and sighed repeatedly. He didn't see the look on Shuryen's face getting ugly. Stop this nonsense. Luo saw Shuryen's face and angrily knocked on Heli's head. He said angrily, you are given this thing, and without even a thank you, you dare to be choosy? You want to die? After Heli got knocked on the head by Luo, he finally reacted, and his fat face pushed a flattering smile. He nodded and bowed to Shuryen. Big brother, thanks. Even though this thing is really badly made, but it's very useful to me. Thank you, thank you. Shuryen didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at Heli. He shook his head. You're welcome. If you can't take care of the purified bottle, then I will take the thing back. Don't worry, don't worry. You will definitely be satisfied. Heli chucked. It's really easy to make the purified bottle. If it weren't that I didn't find the right place, I would have made it long ago. If there is nothing else, we can go now. Shuryen nodded. All right. Luo looked towards Emodwanhuin and said, Master Emo, can we follow along? Yes. Emodwanhuin's expression was indifferent. He nodded. We will go out on the cyan blood baths together. Heli will lead the way. First find a volcano that can refine the purified bottle, then go to the biggest 10,000-year-old volcano on Firecloud Island. Shuryen and Emodwanhuin sat on that level 6 cyan blood bat. Luo's family sat on another cyan blood bat. Together they flew out of the He family towards the closest volcano. Soon, the cyan bloodbats landed on the top of that volcano. Heli used a thin silver glove to hold the green moonstone. He came down from the cyan bloodbat and gazed towards the opening of the volcano. His fat body walked around, and after a moment, he raised his voice and said, I need to go a little more down. The top of the volcano was filled with scorching heat waves, and it was extremely hot. At a gap, there were actually stone stairs going down. The stone stairs were obviously made later. God knows who made them. Heli seemed to have come before. He easily walked down through those stone stairs. His fat body slowly descended into the volcano. Luo was worried. Seeing that Heli went down, he informed Emodwanhuin and also followed along. He raised his voice. Brat, go slowly. If you fall down, all that fat on you will immediately turn into oil and water. "Father, can you not scare me?" Heli exclaimed from inside. "I've came here before. It's only that last time I didn't dare to go down too deep. But now that I have the stone, and even Father is here, there is no risk at all." "You better be careful." Heluo snorted, although he scolded with his words, but he still followed Heli into the volcano and slowly walked downwards. Heluo actually cared very much about the sun. Although He Qingman had outstanding potential, and it made the He family gain extreme amounts of honor. But He Qingman was only a woman. Sooner or later she had to marry. And she was also a strong warrior that was painstakingly brought up by the evil Wonderland. To Heluo, He Qingman might become the biggest support of the He family in the future. However, the job of continuing the bloodline of the He family cannot be passed on to He Qingman. Instead, it was Heli who would take on this big responsibility, and he would also be in charge of the He family. Even though Heluo hit and scolded Heli every day, but inside he knew that He Qingman could never stay in the He family. There was only Heli who would securely stay in the He family, so the safety of Heli was still very important. Very soon, the father and son disappeared from the opening of the volcano. Occasionally you could hear Heluo scolding Heli and Heli's complaints. Shuryen, Emo Duanhuan, and He Qingman stood on a protruding fire rock not far away from the opening of the volcano, watching the top of the volcano. The hot wind blew. He Qingman's hair flew in the wind. Her beautiful body was hot and sexy. Her pair of amorous eyes stared with brilliance, having an enchanting charm. Shuryen frequently looked at the top of the volcano, then looked towards He Qingman. In his mind, he kept imagining He Qingman stripping naked, and how stunning the scene would be when her body were to be revealed. He looked at He Qingman, and the look in his eyes was slowly turning impure. His eyes were shining, as if he had already stripped all the clothes off of He Qingman. He Qingman subconsciously turned around and lightly glanced at Shuryen. Then she immediately realized the strangeness in the look in Shuryen's eyes. "Asshole, what are you looking at?" He Qingman was extremely angry. She suddenly thought about her bet with Shuryen, and from the look in Shuryen's eyes, she immediately realized what he was thinking. She was so angry she almost wanted to attack. Shuryen lightly smiled and said, "Nothing, I was only thinking about our bet." If he didn't say it, it would have been fine, but when he did said it, He Qingman's entire face turned embarrassingly red. She shouted, "I forbid you to think of it." Shuryen shook his head and didn't bother talking with her again. He Qingman angrily glared at Shuryen. Her breasts trembled. She secretly clenched her teeth and shouted coldly, "The thing with our bet, I forbid you to tell anyone about it. If you dare to gossip, I will never let go of you." Usually when I get an advantage, I would secretly enjoy it myself. I'm not that stupid. Shuryen couldn't hold back a chuckle. He didn't know why, but just thinking that soon, this beautiful enchanting woman would strip down naked on her own in front of him, his mood brightened. Even with He Qingman's horrible attitude, he didn't feel that resentful anymore. He Qingman glared at him. "You think you can win?" "Who knows?" Shuryen smiled casually. "It's hard to say about anything. Those who think they will definitely win might not win. Although I don't have 100% confidence, but I won't necessarily lose. All things are unpredictable until the last moment. No one knows how the result will be. But I'm really quite looking forward to it, hee." After He Qingman heard him say this, for some reason, her heart felt a little uneasy. Because of Shuryen's calmness, her confidence was cut down a bit. He will lose for sure. He will never win. What am I thinking about? I need to have confidence in myself. He Qingman shook her head. She regained her steadiness and looked at Shuryen in disdain. She raised her head and snorted coldly as she regained confidence again. Dash. Chapter 182, Under the Flames. Chapter 182, Under the Flames. At the top of the little volcano. Heluo and Heli had already entered into the volcano. Heluo protected Heli and occasionally scolded him as they went deeper. Heli seemed to have started concentrating on refining the purified bottle as he stopped his rebuttals. Soon, He Luo also stopped speaking, as if he was scared he would disturb He Lai. On the edge of the volcanic crater, Shi Yan, Mo Duanhuan, and He Chi Man also stopped talking. After half a day, He Lai, whose face was covered in sweat, excitedly held a bright green purified bottle and appeared at the crater. As if offering a treasure, he shouted, "Success!" The purified bottles that were refined again were now green as jade and crystal clear. Its appearance was obviously improved a lot. Shi Yan smiled and nodded. "Give me the purified bottle, that rock is yours." "All right." He Lai smilingly walked forward and passed the purified bottle to Shi Yan. He triumphantly said to He Luo, who poked his head in, "Did you see that? I can actually refine purified bottles. The reason why many of the things I made before were unsuccessful is not because I have bad skills, but because the environment isn't hot enough. Hee, as long as you give me good circumstances, I won't be worse than other people. Actually, I have a very high possibility of becoming a weaponsmith. Without a fire martial spirit on you, don't ever even think about being a true weaponsmith in your lifetime." He Luo snorted coldly. "In the future you should be more obedient and stop thinking about weaponsmiths. Raising your cultivation up is better than anything." He Lai put up a bitter face and nodded. "Let's go to the 10,000-year-old volcano." Once he obtained the purified bottle, Shi Yan's objective was reached. He wasted no more time and looked at Mo Duanhuan. "All right." Mo Duanhuan called the cyan blood bat, and the two mounted together. They rode the cyan blood bat flying into the distance. He Luo's family seemed to also be very interested in Shi Yan going into the 10,000-year-old volcano. By this time, they should have had no more business to do with this, but they still mounted the cyan blood bats of the Shuro blood guards, and they too flew towards the 10,000-year-old volcano on Firecloud Island. After an hour, a towering, magnificent volcano that was tens of thousands of feet high suddenly appeared in front of Shi Yan's eyes. This volcano was extremely high, rising straight into the clouds. Wisps of hot firelight appeared from the crater of the volcano that hid in the clouds. Glancing over the scene, it seemed as if the sky was on fire. Before they arrived at the crater of the volcano, the heat waves already blew into their faces. It felt like they were in a giant furnace. Temperature was so hot that they almost couldn't breathe. He Chi Man and her family followed far behind Shi Yan and Mo Duanhuan. They watched this area from the top of a level 5 cyan blood bat. The level 6 cyan blood bat under Shi Yan was also started to get irritated. The closer it came to the crater of the volcano, the slower it became. Even 10,000-year-old volcano has a high temperature that was extremely fiery. It had lava that could even melt metals, and the heat waves made its surroundings lifeless. Neither human nor beast would dare to easily get near it. Although this cyan blood bat was of level 6, but its body still cold and icy dark caves. The high heat of the 10,000-year-old volcano was very unbearable to it. Mo Duanhuan knew that the cyan blood bat under him did not want to get near the crater of the volcano, but he still frowned and patted its neck. Once patted by Mo Duanhuan, the cyan blood bat immediately got more tamed. It fearfully and slowly approached the crater of that volcano. That cyan blood bat ridden by the He family members had stopped long ago. All three had a surprised expression on their faces and looked at Shi Yan from afar. "Chi Man, that kid is really only in the second sky of Disaster Realm?" He Luo blankly gazed towards Shi Yan, feeling slightly perplexed. "You grew up on Firecloud Island. You should know how high the temperature is at the crater of this volcano. Let alone Disaster Realm warriors, even those in the Earth Realm, might still be unable to hold up against the blazing heat wave at the crater of a 10,000-year-old volcano. But that kid seems to have no issues? I see that Mo Duanhuan didn't help him either. If he can't even hold against the heat wave at the crater, how would he dare to go down into the volcano?" He Qingmon's pretty brows furrowed, as she said lightly, "Into the volcano?" He Lai suddenly screamed. His fat face was filled with horror. Isn't it supposed to be Mo Duanhuan? He Luo's face also changed. He looked at He Qingman with a strange expression. How can it be him who is going into the volcano? He Luo and He Lai both thought that the one who was going into the heart of the volcano should be the Shura King Mo Duanhuan. Now that they heard He Qingman say this, they were completely shocked. Mo Duanhuan was in the third sky of the sky realm. Such a realm does make it justifiable for him to enter the 10,000-year-old volcano. But what makes Shuryen capable? No matter how He Luo and He Lai thought about it, they couldn't figure anything out. He was once almost seized by the ice-cold flame. Although I don't know what is his relationship with the cold ice flame now, but since he dares to enter the 10,000-year-old volcano, then it's got to have something to do with the ice-cold flame. Without the ice-cold flame, with just his low cultivation, once he drops into the heart of the volcano, he would be immediately burnt into ashes. He Qingman said lightly. Ice-cold flame? Skyfire. He Lai screamed repeatedly. His fat face was filled with excitement. I'm starting to admire him. That is so cool. Really cool. The ice-cold flame couldn't seize him? He Luo also dazed. His face looked confused. The core fire is inside the fire crystal jade. Take this dragon-slaying sword. It is just the right thing to shatter the fire crystal jade. Mo Duanhuan had straight up pulled out the dragon-slaying sword from inside Gu Jianga's body. He gave it to Shuryen and explained, the hornless fire dragon sword spirit inside the dragon-slaying sword is connected to Gu Jianga's soul. As long as Gu Jianga's soul lives, it would be very hard to tame the hornless fire dragon. I only temporarily sealed the soul of the hornless fire dragon. Fortunately, breaking the fire crystal jade doesn't need the hornless fire dragon. You only need the sharpness of the dragon-slaying sword and its fire elemental qualities. All right. Shuryen nodded. He grabbed onto the dragon-slaying sword. He released a beam of mind power to probe around, and indeed he noticed that the sword spirit inside was sealed by a massive power and couldn't move at all. Normal weapons inside the lava of the 10,000-year-old volcano wouldn't be able to handle the blazing heat at all. They could even be burnt into a pool of liquid metal. But the dragon-slaying sword was smelted using many kinds of metals and minerals of the fire element. It was not afraid of the high temperature of the lava inside the 10,000-year-old volcano, so it was the most fitting weapon to use to break the fire crystal jade. Once the fire crystal jade is broken, the core fire would dissipate into the lava very quickly. The power of the earth fire would be temporarily scattered around. Only until the core can reform a new fire crystal jade can the core fire gather together again inside the fire crystal jade. To have a new fire crystal jade form into shape, it would need at least 100 years. So if you want to obtain the core fire, you have to use the purified bottle to collect it before the core fire dissipates into the lava. Mo Duanhuan said again. All right. Shuryen nodded. He said lightly, don't worry, I know what to do. Be careful. Mo Duanhuan frowned. Whether it be the core fire or other things, they are only an objective of yours. They don't have to immediately be achieved. But you only have one life, and that is the most important thing. Remember not to strain yourself. I know, I'm going down now. Shuryen smiled. Sinking his consciousness into the blood vein ring, Shuryen finally called upon the ice-cold flame. I'm already at the crater of the 10,000-year-old volcano. Guard me on my way down. All right. Wisps of chilling cold energy abruptly flowed out of the blood vein ring and quietly into Shuryen's body. Shuryen's body quickly froze up at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. In a mere few seconds, his entire body formed crystal-clear hard ice. Shuryen looked as if he turned into an ice sculpture. His body was glistening. There seemed to be pure white lights flowing in the ice. I'll go now. Shuryen's body flew straight towards the crater of the volcano and suddenly dropped down. Plop. Inside the crater of the volcano, there suddenly came the sound of a heavy object falling in. Waves of lava splashed out, scaring the cyan blood bats as they screamed and hurriedly dodged. Mo Duanhuan frowned. He stared into the volcano for a while, then he rode the cyan blood bat and left. The 10,000-year-old volcano was like an upside-down funnel. The crater is the pointy end, and as you enter you will realize that the interior gets wider and wider. The lava inside the volcano bubbled with fire. Strong heat waves evaporated from it, and hot smoke lingered above. Inside the lava, Shuryen, who was completely frozen, sank down quickly. Covered completely by the ice-cold flames hard ice, inside the lava, Shiryen realized the firelights flashed all around the sea of lava that he was in. Bubbles keep forming in the murky lava, and they quickly floated to the top. This was a deep pool formed by the lava, and the firepower was strong. The more he went down, the higher the temperature of the lava became. If normal disaster realm warriors were to accidentally fall into this pool of lava, then within 3 seconds, all their flesh and bones would be melted. With Earth Realm warriors falling into the surface of the lava pool, without special protective martial skills and secret treasures as support, they could hold for a short while at most. In the end, they would still be melted. Nirvana and Sky Realm warriors could maybe move around the surface of the lava pool. But once they get deep into the bottom of the lava pool and sank for a few thousand meters, they would definitely not be able to hold against fiery liquid that was 10 times as strong, while it burned away their bodies. However, relying on the protection of the ice-cold flame, Shiryen was able to slide straight down into the bottom of the lava, safe and sound. Be careful, inside this pool of lava, there may be special forms of life. There may also be fire demon beasts that rely on the core fire to cultivate. Be alert of these things. Don't suddenly get taken by surprise. Inside the blood vein ring, there came the ice-cold flames warning. Special forms of life? Fire demon beasts. Shiryen's face slightly changed, his brows furrowed deeply. In a harsh environment like this, there can still be life that managed to survive. There are countless magical and mysterious things in this world. The miracles of life are everywhere. Anything is possible. Under any extreme harsh environment, there is the possibility of the existence of special living beings. The more extreme the environment is, the stronger the living beings inside will be. The ice-cold flames message came, but inside the lava pool, even if there is some sort of life forms, you don't need to be too scared. The life forms that live here have to be of the fire element. My power can suppress them. You only need to be careful. As long as you don't get killed, you can use my power to fight back. Okay, I'll be careful. Pop. Just when Shiryen's words came out, a giant fire bubble suddenly popped next to him. Then, a cat-like demon beast, with its body as red as burning iron, suddenly leaped towards him. Dash. Chapter 183. The Heart of the Volcano. Chapter 183. The Heart of the Volcano. Sponsored by Friend's Favor. Dash. This demon beast was not very big. Its body was fiery red color, as if it was built by pouring liquid metal with a very high heat. Shiryen had just communicated with the ice-cold flame, and he immediately realized that a demon beast came out of nowhere. When he saw that demon beast, there were only 2 meters between them. There was a bright red horn on the head of the demon beast. It sparked with firelight as it pierced towards him. Shiryen was slightly surprised. Without thinking much, he swung the dragon-slaying sword in his hand and slashed towards it. Under the heavy blow, the body of the demon beast was slashed and it went back for 5 or 6 meters. They cannot step onto flat ground inside the lava, so Shiryen was also blown back for several meters from the force. Firehorn Beast, Level 4 Demon Beast. It lives by consuming the fire rocks inside lava. Its horn is very hard. It's a high-quality material for making weapons of the fire element. When making this dragon-slaying sword, the horn of the Firehorn Beast was used. The attack of the Firehorn Beast is also mainly dependent on its only horn. It's very easy to fight against. The ice-cold flames message came from inside the blood vein ring. After getting the message of the ice-cold flame, Shiryen lifted the dragon-slaying sword and coldly glared at the Firehorn Beast. He suddenly concentrated his mind power, and wisps of deep cold spirit plus the mind power formed into a shockwave that shot straight towards the soul of the Firehorn Beast. Level 4 Firehorn Beasts have no defense on their soul. Under the impact of the soul attack from Shiryen, it immediately got heavily injured and escaped in panic. Inside the mind power of Shiryen, there was some cold energy that came with it. Inside this lava pool, against the living souls of fire element creatures, it had an obvious restraining power on them. After being hit once by his soul attack, the fire horn beast's soul was badly hurt, and it didn't dare to come near him anymore. The more deep one went into the lava pool, the more spacious it became. Once the fire horn beast escaped, it immediately left no trace behind. Although the horn of level 4 fire horn beasts were quite decent forging material, but Shiryen paid no attention to it. With the extraordinary status of the Yang family in the Kiara Sea, the piles of cultivation material on Immortal Island had whatever he needed. It had a lot of materials that were more precious than the horn of the fire horn beast. Naturally, Shiryen couldn't bother to chase the fire horn beast. You are still very far from the earth core of the 10,000-year-old volcano. The more you go down, the higher the temperature of the lava will be. If there really exists special life forces down there, then it will definitely be much more powerful than the fire horn beast. Inside the Earth's core, if there are life forces other than the core fire, then we will have to leave immediately. If there are really things that can survive next to the core fire, then it will definitely be very frightening. No matter what, it's not something you can handle. If I can't handle it, what about you? If you can release me from the ring, then I can freeze this entire 10,000-year-old volcano. No matter what is in the Earth's core, I won't be scared. But if you get killed, and I am sealed by this stupid ring, left in the Earth's core of this 10,000-year-old volcano, I might not be able to resurface the Earth again for another few thousand years. Shiryen didn't answer, he just frowned and continued to sink deep into the lava. With the ice-cold flames reminder, Shiryen became more careful. He released his mind power, and the mind power that contained the presence of the ice-cold flames spread out from him, as it showed deep intention of warnings. He sank all the way down in the lava pool. Shiryen used his mind power, and it actually did sense a few living consciousnesses that were not so weak. Those living consciousnesses were all of the fire element. Shiryen's mind power peeped at them, and he realized that those life consciousnesses were all like clusters of fire. With the icy cold energy that went along with his mind power, those life consciousnesses didn't dare to get near him. They all went far out of their way to avoid him. A few life consciousnesses among them, from Shiryen's view, seemed to be comparable to the soul strength of Nirvana realm warriors. Kid, you're pretty smart. You used my cold energy to warn those guys. The ice-cold flame sent out a message from inside the blood vein ring again. Cold energy from me contains my presence. I am the natural nemesis of those life forces. The guys that live down here are much smarter than that firehorn beast. They felt the presence of their nemesis, so naturally they ran fast. Shiryen didn't bother with it. He continued to release his mind power. He carefully and cautiously spread it out, while being alert of any life consciousness that might suddenly pop up. Through the use of mind power for this while, he paid more and more attention to the pure soul power inside the soul-gathering pearl. Mind power has special uses in some special areas. Like this time, if he didn't have the ice-cold flames mind power along with him, he might have had to waste much more effort to battle with the creatures that surrounded him. He would need to block against a wave of their attacks first, in order for them to understand the existence of the ice-cold flame, to make them quit. Some strong creatures could suddenly appear inside the lava pool. If they were really to uncontrollably bombard him, then maybe he won't even be able to hold against one wave of attacks. If he were to be killed directly, then there would be no way for those guys to realize the existence of the ice-cold flame. If he could use the soul power inside the soul-gathering pearl to evolve and refine his soul, and form a sea of consciousness inside his mind, and have a soul consciousness, then his power would step into an entire new level. Using the sea of consciousness and soul consciousness that exceed his level, when in a battle, he would dominate, and the warriors of the same level would play in the palm of his hands. Thinking about it that way, Shiryen's eyes brightened a little bit more. The ice-cold flame really didn't seem to be bragging. It seemed to be the true nemesis of the fire element life forces here. When Shiryen spreaded out his mind power that brought its presence, the many kinds of fire life forms that Shiryen could sense all avoided him and hid on their own. They didn't want to get near him at all. After God knows how long. Suddenly, the ice-cold flame sent its consciousness again. Be careful now, you are almost at the Earth's core of the volcano. Stop first, and we can both sense our surroundings to see if there are life forces down there. If there is a life that exists, then you and I will leave immediately and give up on this mission. All right. Shuryen controlled his body and used profound chi to form into two little swirls under his feet, making his body stay in place. Releasing his mind power, he slowly reached towards the bottom of the lava pool. 50 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters. He had no discoveries. His mind power didn't touch anything that might hide the existence of life. The lava down below was just more and more thick and hot. It spread it out evenly, and there was not a specific area where the fire power was extremely heavy. An area with a fire life must have fire power that was stronger than other areas. If he didn't feel any place that had such abnormalities, it meant that there really were no fire lives under there. His mind power continued to search downwards. Suddenly, a mass of extremely fierce fire power fluctuated from one corner. When Shuryen's mind power touched that fire power, his soul felt as if it was burning. His body suddenly shook, and he almost couldn't hold back a scream. Only a portion of the mind power that he released came back. The portion that touched the fierce fire power was immediately burnt up by the fire. A fire that could even burn mind power. Shuryen's face changed drastically. He quickly made a decision and immediately stirred all of the profound chi in his body to float up. He could feel that inside that fire power there was a very slight life consciousness. It instinctively hated the approach of any sort of life. The life consciousness of that fire power was extremely weak. So weak that if Shuryen wasn't extremely cautious all along, he might not have even sensed it. But the heat of that fire power could even burn up mind power. This was truly a little too frightening. He closely remembered the ice-cold flame's words. If he sensed that there might be an existence of life down there, no matter what type of life it was, he had to immediately retreat. Shuryen already did that. Wait. The ice-cold flame's consciousness quickly came from inside the blood vein ring. Wait. The life force down there should be the core fire. The core fire? Shurya was surprised. The difference between earth fires and sky fires is that one has a life consciousness and the other doesn't. It's just a pure fire source. How could the core fire have a life consciousness? It's already evolving towards being a sky fire. The ice-cold flame immediately answered. After the core fire exists for several tens of thousands of years, it would slowly nurture a life consciousness. The core fire down there should be at the moment of transforming into a sky fire. Its life consciousness has just started forming. It has no knowledge of anything, only instincts. The core fire is evolving into a sky fire. Shuryen suddenly remembered the liquid core fire essence he got from searching a group of warriors when he was in the dark forest. Back then Muyuri once said that the core fire essence was the core fire of a 10,000-year-old volcano. It was a precious and wonderful thing that was formed before transforming into a sky fire. The core fire essence was in between the state of a solid and a liquid. It was very magical and could greatly improve fire-type martial spirits. Remembering back to that experience, Shuryen immediately realized that the core fire in this 10,000-year-old volcano should have also been at the time of transformation, rising from an earth fire to a sky fire. It's transforming into a sky fire. This moment is relatively safe. The ice-cold flame sent out the message. Then tell me what to do. Don't release your mind power to search. Instead, just go directly into the bottom. Transformation from an earth fire to a sky fire also needs a process. It might need a year or even 10 years. At this time, the consciousness of the core fire is at its most simplest. If someone were to put their soul imprint inside the core fire at this moment, they can rein it in. The ice-cold flame's consciousness became a little reluctant in the end. It seemed to be hesitating a little and didn't continue. What? Rein in the core fire. But Shuryen heard it loud and clear. His face was full of joy as he hurriedly sent a message to the ice-cold flame. Tell me, what should I do? I didn't think I would have such great luck. You have to promise me first, if I can help you collect this core fire, you can't have ideas about me again. When you reach the Nirvana realm, you have to let me go and cannot restrain me anymore. If you obtain this core fire and your cultivation rises to the nirvana realm, by that time I won't be able to do anything to you anyway. Yen didn't immediately answer. The ice-cold flame was a sky fire. After the core fire obtains a life consciousness, it would also be a sky fire. However, there is a difference between higher and lower-ranked sky fires. Whether it be the wisdom or the power, sky fires that were made through later transformations like the core fire would not be as wonderful as a fire that was formed when the world was first born, like the ice-cold flame. The reason why Yen had to make purified bottles on this trip to gather the core fire was to prepare for taking a hold of the ice-cold flame in the future. The rumors about the type of sky fires like the ice-cold flame had long been deeply embedded in Yen's mind. He knew that if he could reign in a type of sky fire like this, it would have immeasurable benefits to his future. Now the ice-cold flame was willing to help him collect this core fire that was almost transformed into a sky fire, but decided to propose the condition of leaving the blood vein ring. This made Yen a little conflicted. He was hesitating at the moment. Of course, he could pretend like he promised the ice-cold flame and go back on the promise in the future after he collects the core fire. But he was not that type of person. So, you are someone that values promises. The ice-cold flame sent out a happy message from inside the blood vein ring. I am happy you did not immediately agree. If you did, then I would definitely know you were being insincere. But you are not talking, and instead you are weighing your options. That means you value your promises, and you don't want to lie to me. Yen continued being silent. If you immediately responded me and lied to me, I definitely would have killed you. Because if you were to really obtain the core fire in the future and manage to find enough resources, then when you reach a higher realm, you really would be able to control me. Instead of being controlled by you, I would rather kill you and wait for other opportunities here. Yen was still silent. Since you really are weighing your choices, then I really can make a deal with you. Because you value promises, so I can really dare to make a deal with you. The ice-cold flame seemed to finally made a decision after gaining this understanding about Yen. How's this? Before you reach the nirvana realm, I will use all my knowledge to help you break through faster. In my soul, there are the memories of the martial understanding of a few God Realm masters. These are utterly useless to me, but to you, these unseeable things might be more precious to you than obtaining me myself. Chapter 184, Approve. Chapter 184, Approve. Sponsored by Friend's Favor. Yen suddenly flipped. Ice-cold flame was indeed very precious, but for Yen the memories that it obtained from God Realm warriors and the knowledge about martial arts were rarer. If the ice-cold flame was really willing to bequeath the memories from the God Realm warriors and the knowledge of martial arts to him, then wouldn't his acquisition be similar to the reincarnation martial spirit from the Xia family? The reason why the reincarnation martial spirit from Xia family was so mighty was because they can get the memories from their past and also the knowledge about martial arts, allowing them to not only take detour during cultivation, but also can reduce or even completely avoid the bottleneck during cultivation. This was indeed a horrid talent. If he can obtain the insight of martial arts from the God Realm warriors through the ice-cold flame, then Yen's cultivation will skyrocket. In order to merge with the ice-cold flame, he needs to gather 9 extremely hot yang-powered treasures and materials, and also step into a higher realm. For Yen, these conditions were still in an unforeseeable future, and he doesn't know when he can attain them. However, once the deal between him and the ice-cold flame was done, he will immediately get benefits from the ice-cold flame and also a chance to merge with the core fire that was transforming into the sky fire. After weighing the pros and cons for a while, Yen felt that this deal was beneficial. I promise you. After being idle for a long time, Yen finally agreed the agreement to the ice-cold flame within the blood vein ring. Good. The ice-cold flame was more excited than him, and immediately replied, "You will not be disappointed, believe me. With my knowledge, your cultivation will be faster than the others. With my help, your insight toward the martial arts may even become deeper than the current God Realm warriors. What do I do now?" I mean, how can I merge with the core fire? At this moment, the core fire is in the process of becoming a sky fire. The current core fire is very pure, just like a newborn baby. At this time, as long as you constantly communicate with it and send a friendly thought, it will deeply remember you and treat you as a loved one. Shiryen was stunned. You are lucky. Ice-cold flame continued. After it's a life form, you can only merge with it by force. This would require your power to completely suppress it. Make it fear you and never dare to revolt against you. With that, you can merge with it, enslave it, and then make it become a part of your strength and control it as you want. This kind of merge is very dictatorial. Even if you had merged with it, once you are seriously injured and can't control it anymore, it will immediately counterchange and try to detach from you or maybe kill you. This method has its advantages and disadvantages. Currently, you don't have the required power, so don't even think about it. Before its consciousness is formed, use my method and keep sending a friendly thought to it and treat it as your closest friend. Thus, before its consciousness is formed, you can leave your imprint in its soul. After its consciousness is formed, the imprint that you left in its soul will never disappear. It will you treat as a loved one, and later, you can obtain its power and help you to fight with your enemy, even when you are seriously injured. It even has the power to detach from you. It won't do it, but instead will help you. Of course, this method also has a weakness. Because you're in the same relationship, it's difficult for you to sacrifice it in order to live when you are in danger. When it meets with its natural enemies, it also won't listen to you, and probably will hide and not dare to battle. This means that you can't control it as you want or sacrifice it. I just released my spirit power to search it, but it was aware and immediately counterattacked. I can't get close to it at all. That was because there is my presence in your spirit power just now. My element is the opposite from it, so it instinctively loathed me. Next time when you use your spirit power, don't add my presence to it. End out a friendly thought, slowly close in, taking care not to scare it, and gradually it will accept you. I see. Shiryen was stunned and immediately said, I will try it. Okay. Remember, don't get close to it too fast. At this moment, it is very cautious and very defensive. You need to take it easy and not be too hasty. Let it recognize you first so that it will not be wary of you. Also, keep sending friendly thoughts, and after it has felt that you really don't want to hurt it, it will lift its guard against you. Shiryen was secretly surprised. The method to merge with core fire from ice-cold flame, in fact, it was the same as to tame a ferocious cub. You need to step by step make it accept you a bit by bit, and gradually let it adapt to you. After that it will put down its guard. And will take the initiative to close you, and will treat you as the closest friend. After communicating with ice-cold flame, Shiryen felt benefit greatly. This guy don't know have lived many years, obtained the life experience from the God Realm warriors, and has a profound understanding toward oddity of heaven and earth. Shiryen held his breath and once again, trying to dissipate the spirit power and quietly approach that area. This time, there wasn't any presence of ice-cold flame in his spirit power. In his mind, there was only friendly thought, and there was no trace of evil thoughts in his heart. Gradually, Shiryen's spirit power approached that intense and dire fire field. The intense flame, as if a group of dazzling sun, continued to release an amazing fire energies. Among those fire energies, there was a very weak consciousness. Shiryen carefully closing his spirit power which full of friendly thought, inch by inch toward that fire field as directed by ice-cold flame. At the moment when his spirit power and that fire energy in contact, the weak consciousness in that fire energy suddenly became alert, seemingly ready to attack Shiryen's consciousness. Shiryen was a little shocked and became more cautious. Don't dare to too hasty. Shiryen maintained his spirit power in the early contact state and didn't go through again, but he keeps send out the friendly thought from his mind. The simple consciousness in that fire energy seems to be confused and didn't immediate attack, but became stronger bit by bit and seems to become a thread that was hard to see with naked eyes. Covered the Shiryen's spirit power and slowly felt out the friendly thoughts from Shiryen. The core fire awareness and the instinctive guard were more than what Shiryen had thought. Although that spirit halo that covered Shuriyen's spirit power didn't immediately attack, but it was ready to attack at any time. Shuriyen was a bit nervous, fearing that core fire suddenly attack. He didn't dare to act frivolous and only keep sending friendly thoughts. Come back first, try again after a while. Try to give it some space to think. With that, the next time your spirit power enter it, it will not be so tense again. At this moment, its consciousness isn't complete, so giving the ability to think to it also helped to fasten formed his life form. Ice-cold flame contacted. Shuriyen slowly withdraw his spirit power and him clearly felt the core fire consciousness, that when he withdraw his spirit power, it seems hesitated to attack or not. Shuriyen was very nervous and slowed down his withdrawal process as if pulling a thread inch by inch. He understood that the fire energy from core fire was enough to burn clean his spirit power, and it can even directly kill his soul through the link of his soul and spirit power. If the core fire really does so, then his soul probably will be seriously injured or maybe completely burned. This was extremely dangerous. Shuriyen concentrated and didn't dare to relax a bit, but also didn't dare to too nervous, afraid that the withdrawing process will be too quick and make core fire misunderstood and launched an attack. Just like passing a thread through needle's eye, it must be extremely accurate, and if it is careless, then it's possible to fail. If he failed, then the price that he needs to pay may be his life. Time passed quietly. Shuriyen felt afraid that, even after a century passed, the spirit power that he had released into the core fire would not be pulled back completely. In this process, the core fire awareness didn't relax for a bit, just until he withdrew all of his spirit power. The core fire stopped its pursuit. Fire. In the weird soft ice that the ice-cold flame constructed, Shuriyen sighed. His spirit power was too fatigued, and said it was so dangerous. This was more difficult than fighting a warrior that is high one level from me. Not bad. The first step has already met the expected result. Next time your spirit power enter, it will not be so tense again, and when you withdraw your spirit power, just follow this rhythm, and you will be okay. The ice-cold flame assured him. All right. At the next period, Shuriyen followed the ice-cold flame's guidance, separated releasing his friendly thought and gentle spirit power and slowly approaching the core fire spirit halo. At the second time, it was really easier than the first time. After the core fire felt Shuriyen's spirit power approach again, although it was still quite cautious, but it seemed to really relaxed a bit. And when Shuriyen withdrew his spirit power, the core fire wasn't pursuing so hard anymore, ready to attack him anytime. At the third time, the core fire was even more relaxed. When Shuriyen's spirit power approached core fire, the core fire completely put down its awareness and didn't even plan to fight back. Shuriyen was secretly surprised and kept using this method, releasing his friendly thoughts toward core fire. After for a long time, Shuriyen also didn't know how much time has passed. At that time, when Shuriyen withdrew his spirit power from core fire, he felt for the first time that the core fire was a bit unwilling to be separate from him. It was unwilling. This feeling was so clear, like Shuriyen was seeing a child who showed a sad feeling when his friend left. Good. It has already approved you. As long as you continue again, it won't be too long before we can get closer to it. Dash. Translated by Y. Chapter 185, The Gift from Ice-Cold Flame. Chapter 185, The Gift from Ice-Cold Flame. Inside the volcano, Shuriyen repeatedly kept sending his friendly thoughts and spirit power to the core fire. Gradually, he also started to treat the core fire as his friend. The ice-cold flame, using his knowledge, taught Shuriyen step by step. Its method was really advantageous. By using its method, Shuriyen was gradually getting the approval from core fire and made the core fire lift its guard against him. One day, when Shuriyen's spirit power entered the spirit halo where the core fire resided, he immediately sensed hilarity from core fire. The weak consciousness from core fire wrapped and pulled Shuriyen's spirit power, then rolled into the midst of the fire like a naughty child. The core fire has already treated Shuriyen as its friend. A life that hasn't formed its life form was really pure. After Shiryen keeps sending his friendly thoughts, the core fire gradually began to entrust him, and when his spirit power entered, it immediately revealed an elated emotions like pulling and playing with Shiryen's spirit power. Each time when Shiryen wanted to pull back his spirit power, the core fire appeared unwilling. On several occasions, it even wrapped Shiryen's spirit power and don't let his spirit power leave. This really made Shiryen happy. Even in his heart, there developed a loving affection. He felt like the core fire was his child, so attached to him and innocent. In his heart, he already no longer had any bad intention towards the core fire. After being together for some time, he has started liking this little guy. In the several times when Shiryen discussed with ice-cold flame, he often repeatedly asked if this method will harm the core fire. The ice-cold flame was also aware of the slight change in Shiryen. After getting along with the core for some time, he knew that Shiryen already loves the core fire. The ice-cold made it clear that as long as he does not use the dictatorial method, his approach towards the core fire wasn't harmless, but it will also quicken the forming of core fire's life. This will only benefit the core file and not harm it. With the ice-cold flame's guarantee, Shiryen finally calmed down and treated his approachment toward the core fire as a hobby. He found that with the contact of his spirit power, the emotions from the core fire seemed to become more and more like a person, joy, unwillingness, and a slight sadness. Shiryen felt that the core fire life was slowly changing. Another day, when his spirit power tried to leave from the core fire spirit halo, the core fire using his fire power tightly wrapped Shiryen's spirit power and don't let Shiryen leave. Just like a child who was pestering his parents and don't want to leave the embrace of their parents. Shiryen resigned and only can temporarily slow down the withdrawal process of his spirit power to let this little guy pulled his spirit power, playing and rolling in the midst of the fire. It only released his bound toward Shiryen when it became tired. Only at this time Shiryen can get out. You can go in now, the ice-cold flame relayed again. I believe that even your body can go near it, now it won't attack you. Its devotion to you already far surpassed its fear to me. Even if there is my presence in your body, it will still treat you as a family. After waiting for so long, this moment finally came, but Shiryen hesitated a bit and said, "We are going to use its power to train the soul-gathering pearl. It will not affect it, right?" "No," the ice-cold flame replied with a strange emotion. "You have really treated it as loved one and began to care for him. This is good. It can feel your care towards it. The life form like us are very sensitive. We can directly sense from your soul that you are earnest or not. By treating it like this, it can feel it. Our operation until now is already a success." Shiryen was stunned. Success? As long as it doesn't resist you and treat you as a family, the next thing will be only a matter of course, the cold ice flame replied. But if you want it to follow you, you need to do something more. You must use its fire energy to refine your body, so that in your body there will be a fire energy of him. We don't need to do too much. As long as there is a presence of it, that is enough. How to do it? Using the fire energy to refine your body also had a big opportunity for you. I had said that I will use my knowledge to help you. Now I will tell you a method of refining the body that will also remove the impurities in your body and will make your body more powerful. In fact, the warriors of past were very accentuated with their body. The training for body was as important as cultivating the profound chi. Their body was very tough, and just with their body strength alone without using the profound chi, they can make the earth tremble. The toughness of their body can bring out their power to the greatest extent, and nowadays, you guys are only focused on your soul and profound chi, and don't train your body, which is actually a great disadvantage. The ice-cold flame slowly explained in detail about the fundamentals of the body, profound chi, and soul for a warrior. According to ice-cold flame, the warrior in the past were very concerned about the body, profound chi, and soul, and for some warriors which had unique martial souls, their body toughness even surpassed their soul and profound chi cultivation. This kind of warrior will use various methods to hone their body. Just with the body strength alone, it's already really powerful. They used the method of refining divine weapon to temper their body, so that their body contain a great power and even have all sorts of oracle. The warrior with the powerful body has a more powerful spirit power than the same level of warriors, and also their use of profound chi and soul was also more powerful than the same level warriors. During the battle, the warrior with the powerful body has more advantage and almost always win against the warriors that didn't focus on refining their body. Shuryen easily agreed with the ice-cold flame, the twin martial spirit in his body. The petrification martial spirit and immortal martial spirit were also related to the body. If he really refines his body and gave priority to body refining, then his acquisition will be much further than the ordinary warriors. However, he rarely heard any method of refining. Most martial skill only focused on the use of profound chi. There were very few martial skills that focused on the body. The finger gun from Shur family barely can be regarded as a martial skill that refines the body, but the finger gun limitation was too big, which can only be used on the finger. This martial skill can't be considered as a martial skill that refines the body because it can only train the fingers. But the ice-cold flame has lived for a very long time and also has the knowledge from many God Realm warriors. The method of body refining was precisely the thing Shuryen needed the most right now. If Shuryen didn't have a deal with the ice-cold flame won't be so straightforward and teach him the method of refining the body. Even in the difficult situation, it will certainly not tell him. But now, the ice-cold flame wasn't only explaining the importance of body refining and the relation between body, soul, and profound chi, but it on its own initiative was willing to teach him the method to refine the body. Shuryen really felt it was the right thing that he agreed with the ice-cold flame. Let's go down first. After the ice-cold flame finished explaining, it urged Shuryen to go into the bottom of the lava. Now you can be rest assured, the core fire won't attack you. After you go near to the fire crystal in which the core fire resides, you just need to take out the soul-gathering pearl and put it on the fire crystal. You don't need to do anything. The fire energy from the fire crystal will itself refine the soul-gathering pearl. All right, I know it. Shuryen nodded and finally no longer continued to stay on there and dived towards the bottom. After a while, a group of dazzling, colorful light suddenly greeted him. In the crimson-red lava, there was a fist-sized fire crystal jade that released light and heat, like a summer sun in the noon, overflowing with red light and strong heat. This plate-sized fire crystal jade was very beautiful and embraced by Ambolite. Among them, there was fist-sized crimson flame that was swaying in the center of that jade crystal, sending out hot and intense fire rings. The red flame that as big as a fist was very strange, and it was constantly changing. A flower for a while, a red fruit for a while, a face for a while, and didn't have a fixed form. This flame was indeed not dead. It seems to have been constantly changing, and its vitality was very vigorous like an ever-changing small sun, releasing a dreadful light through the crystal. Shuryen, who was far away from that crystal within the condensed ice from ice-cold flame, also felt the heat wave. This heat seemed to be able to penetrate the ice that covered his body and directly penetrate his soul, which made him uncomfortable. That is the core fire? Shuryen stared at it and was secretly surprised. Yes, that is the core fire, the ice-cold flame replied. You don't need to worry, with my ice that is covering your body, although it can't fully offset the infiltration from the flame, but it can reduce half of it. This is only just the beginning. After you put the soul-gathering pearl on the crystal, I will gradually reduce the protection toward that flame, and you will feel more fire energy flowed into you. You need to spread that fire energy throughout your whole body flesh, meridians, bones, and cells, just like refining a divine weapon. Use the fire energy to refine your body. The cultivation for flesh was harder than the profound chi and soul. During the cultivation, the pain was so intense that many people can't endure it, and that's why nowadays warriors gradually abandoned body cultivation. Rest assured, my endurance is much stronger than ordinary people. The pain that can't be endured by others, for me, that's not a problem, Shuryen confidently said. Before he arrived in this world, he was an extreme madman that loved to challenge his limits, and that's why his endurance toward pain was much stronger than ordinary people. After arriving here, he used his advantage on the cultivation road to its fullest. The training for finger guns, the training for rampage. Every kind of martial skills must begin with the courage to be cruel to oneself. With this fundamental, he was fearless. Hopefully so, if really like so, then our speed will be much faster and you will get greater advantages, perhaps. After this refining, the martial souls inside your body will also evolve. Translated by Y. Chapter 186, Extreme Refining. Chapter 186, Extreme Refining. Yan was gradually closing into the floating crystal. The heat from the fire energy was flowing out from the crystal. Even with the help of ice, Yan's bodies felt like it was being roasted in the midst of the fire. The ice that has been formed by the ice-cold flame can't even resist the heat from the 10,000-year core fire, and that intense flame power directly penetrated in. Yan carefully took out the soul-gathering pearl. 10 meters above the crystal, he calmed his mind and concentrated his spirit power. After that, he sent his energy to the soul-gathering pearl and suddenly released it. The soul-gathering pearl immediately went down. Chi. The white membrane that covered the soul-gathering pearl suddenly burnt up, and only for a moment, that membrane completely disappeared. At the same time, a huge force of soul power suddenly bursted out from the soul-gathering pearl. Yan's soul was rattled and he suddenly felt an out-of-body illusion. He hurriedly focused his mind and held his breath and didn't dare to release even a bit of spirit power. In the soul-gathering pearl that has lost its membrane, there were some souls that were dancing and slowly crawling densely inside the pearl like entangled 10,000 black silks. It really made people's scalp go numb. Dang! The soul-gathering pearl fell on the fire crystal jade. Slip. A black mist that can be seen by eyes suddenly came out from the soul-gathering pearl and spread out in the lava before it gradually disappeared. That huge soul energy that bursted out from the soul-gathering pearl also disappeared without a trace. The soul-gathering pearl fell on the fire crystal jade and seemed to be stuck on the crystal. The fire dispersed from the fire crystal as it embraced the soul-gathering pearl while burning it. The 10,000-year core fire behaved abnormally inside the fire crystal, changing into various forms while releasing amazing amount of heat. The core fire seemed to know that something has fallen on the fire crystal. Its nature was quick-tempered, so it immediately sent its fire energy and tried to burn the soul-gathering pearl into ashes. Under the 10,000 core fire combustion, the impurities inside the dark bright soul-gathering pearl were quickly refined and transformed into black smokes, which was immediately engulfed and quickly fused into the lava. With the heat coming, Yan also felt slightly uncomfortable, and even on his body appeared some traces of sweat. The usage of profound chi was needed to float above the fire crystal jade. After Yan stopped for a while, he found that the soul-gathering pearl has been completely covered by the flame, and only after consulting with the ice-cold flame and hearing that it was okay, did he finally calm down. Yan quietly went away from the crystal and settled on a red rock 30 meters away. Not far from there, the soul-gathering pearl was covered by the 10,000-year core fire, and the dregs among it was refined and dissolved in the lava. Yan was slightly relieved after looking at the dark bright soul-gathering pearl becoming more and more translucent. In his heart, there was an unspeakably delighted emotion. The soul-gathering pearl won't change anymore. The flame power from the 1,000 years core fire was enough to refine it and form a pure soul power. Now you can rest assured with the things related to the soul-gathering pearl. It is the time for you to be careful. The ice-cold flame relayed. Yan was stunned, and with a slightly doubt he asked, "What should I be careful with, you think?" In the next moment, the intense fire energy rapidly flew into Yan, who was in the ice, and suddenly his body was dyed in red. The fire energy penetrated through the ice and directly went in. Yan, who was sealed in the ice, found that he has been surrounded by the fire energy and his body was being refined in the fire. His every cell seemed to be inflamed. An unbearable pain spread it out in his body like a tide, and Yan, who was being burnt, immediately issued a huge roar. "This is just the beginning. The ice-cold flame reply suddenly became a little cold-blooded. I promised you that I will help you so that you can use the 10,000-year core fire to refine your body, and now it has already began. This is too sudden. Shiryen screamed. His body was covered with sweat, and the sweat that flowed out from his body quickly froze and covered his skin under the power from the ice-cold flame. However, the ice doesn't seem to be able to block the fire energy, as Shiryen didn't feel cold at all, and his body still continued to sweat. It has started. The ice-cold flame seemed to be gloating and said, "Didn't you say that your endurance toward pain is much stronger than ordinary people? Hehe, so from the beginning, I hadn't treated you like ordinary people, and I don't want you to adapt to it a bit by bit, but immediately feel despair." Shiryen secretly regretted taking help from the ice-cold flame, but he was helpless and could only scream. In that case, now you can tell me the method of refining the body, right? This method of refining was from a warrior in the third sky of the spirit realm, which was called extreme refining. It will push you through limit one after another. You must remember this. Always maintain your consciousness and never be unconscious. Once you are unconscious, then you will never be able to wake up again. You need to have a little sense of proportion. Relax, I have my proportion. But if you disappoint me and faint during the process, then even I can't save you. Alright then, tell me how to do the extreme refining. You must listen carefully. This kind of refining is the same as refining divine weapon. By using the flame to remove the impurities from the body, then guide the fire energy into your meridians. I will tell you which path you should take, and you then spread the fire energy in your body through the meridian's path and fuse your mind with the fire energy and burn the bones, meridians, flesh, organs, even every cell again and again. Shiryen startled. Your body is different from the others. It doesn't have many impurities. I don't know how you did it, but now you only need to follow my guidance and guide the fire energy into your body through the special meridian's path. You can do it step by step. Remember, no matter what, you must remain consciousness and never be unconsciousness. My body is different from the others. Yes, when you were cultivating in the Menlo Island, your body even absorbed the cold energy that I spread out. I immediately found that your body seems to have been refined and didn't contain any impurities, so I thought to use this chance by infusing my energy into your body to make your body adapt to my energy, so that I can plunder it. Shiryen was stunned for a while and suddenly remembered the reason. The blood pool. When he arrived in this world for the first time, he found that he was in a cave. The blood pool inside the cave contained a very evil energy. He rushed into the blood pool without hesitation, and his body sucked all of the blood in that blood pool. After he regained his consciousness, he was in a blood cocoon. After that, he had a feeling of being reborn again, and there was profound chi in his body. The blood from the blood pool didn't only give him a mysterious martial spirit, but also refined his body and cleared the impurities inside his body, which made the profound chi flow more smoothly. Everything that he got until today was inseparable from that mysterious martial spirit, and that mysterious martial spirit was formed because of that blood pool. You can still daze? Looks like the fire energy in your body can still be increased. The ice-cold flame once again relayed a cold-blooded message and immediately allowed more fire energy to pass through, and suddenly more and more fire energy directly penetrated Shiryen's body. Shiryen's body immediately turned into crimson red like a soldering iron, and he felt like he was being grilled. He immediately roared out with a hoarse voice and looked grim. This pain was more intense than when he was cultivating the second sky of rampage and fused the negative energy into his blood. No ordinary people can endure this kind of pain. If replaced with the others, maybe they would had already fainted. But Shiryen just screamed as his eyes turned into red, and you can still see some resolution in his eyes. You really weren't bluffing. In this kind of heat, most people's mind will collapse, or they will even go crazy, and some people will immediately faint and forever lose the chance to advance. But you are really good. Truly a monster. With your current cultivation and realm, you still can withstand this power. You really are the most suitable person to cultivate the extreme refining. Shiryen roared and didn't answer. I had more than one body refining skills, but this extreme refining was the evilest and dangerous at the beginning. I just wanted to test whether you can endure it or not. If you can't endure it, I would have given you another one, but now, there's no need to it. Congratulations, as long as you can endure during this extreme refining, the effect will be obvious, and this is the fastest refining method. As long as you can keep consciousness, I am sure you will quickly have a solid foundation. Shiryen can hear the message from the ice-cold flame, but he can't respond. Because the ice-cold flame again lifted the block towards the fire energy and let more fire energy to pass through. Shiryen howled like a fierce beast. His roars were full with the pain of an immortal human. Even flames were wavering from his nostrils, eyes, mouth like a fire serpent. Shiryen seemed like he was burned from inside. Covered in red, he can even see a plume of the small flame swimming in his body. Enough, now listen carefully, I will tell you which path you should take. As the ice-cold flame explained the things related to the extreme refining with detail to Shiryen, it also quietly watched the changes happening in Shiryen's mind. Although the fire was still scattering on Shiryen's body, and he looked ferocious, but his soul was unusually active. The ice-cold flame was secretly scared. Even if it never practiced the extreme refining, but it knew the horrors of this extreme refining method from that person's memory. Because this extreme refining wasn't originally the refining skill for a human warrior. The one who invented this extreme refining was an evil blacksmith. This extreme refining was originally one of his refining divine weapon method with using fire. After inventing this extreme refining, so far, only that blacksmith who had been used it to refine his body had once used it. He cultivated the extreme refining using the fire martial spirit in his body, not using the earth fire. The earth fire was more ferocious than mortal fire. Although the ice-cold flame lowered the fire energy from the earth fire, but it was still an earth fire. Even the ice-cold flame had difficulty in control the violent element from the earth fire. Although told him about the extreme refining, it didn't want Shiryen to cultivate it. Instead, it had already chose another refining method for Shiryen. But Shiryen managed to endure it. It could not help but be surprised by it. Chapter 187, Refinement. Chapter 187, Refinement. Shiryen didn't know what was special about refinement. From inside the blood vein ring, the ice-cold flame kept sending messages to instruct Shiryen on how to refine. According to the ice-cold flame's instruction, Shiryen triggered the power of the earth core fire and pushed it into his veins. Some minor veins seemed to burn after the fire power came in, and the pain was intolerable. If his body had not been refined once by the cold power of the ice-cold flame on the Monroe Island, he could have been burnt by the earth core fire. The cold power of the ice-cold flame had filled his limbs and entails, so when the earth core fire flew in his body, his temperature didn't surge rapidly. And that's why Shiryen's flesh and veins were not melted, though he was enduring incredible pain, which the ice-cold flame had foreseen. It dared let Shiryen refine with the earth core fire as it knew Shiryen's body was extraordinary with the cold power, which could help him cool down when burnt with fire. The ice-cold flame knew the cold power was enough to prevent Shiryen's veins and blood from melting, but it couldn't soften his pain. He had to go through the pain of burning, and the cold power would strengthen the pain. Inside the hard ice, little flames came out from Shiryen's body, and he looked as red as if he was burning in fire. Dehydration made Shiryen's body skinny as he operated Rampage. As the fire was burning in his body, Shiryen kept bellowing, as his eyes turned red and his face hideous. The ice-cold flame kept silent and felt the changes in Shiryen's body, as his body was forming natural power of defense. Shiryen's body had turned dark brown. The moment the flame permeated his body, his petrification martial spirit was triggered. However, as the flame burnt greatly, his dark brown skin turned red. The ice-cold flame noticed the changes in Shiryen's body. As the fire got stronger and stronger, Shiryen's petrification martial spirit started operating to weaken the pain on his body. Meanwhile, the immortal martial spirit in Shiryen's body seemed to be awakened as well. The ice-cold flame also gradually settled down. It was not careful when it handed the refinement to Shiryen, because it thought Shiryen would give up soon after he found he couldn't bear it. It was out of its expectation that Shiryen preserved more than others, for he could keep sober even under the torturing of the earth core fire. The two martial spirits took effect gradually, so the ice-cold flame came to know that as long as Shiryen could endure the burning of the fire, the two martial spirits would be triggered and increase his ability. As his body was refined and his martial spirits enhanced, Shiryen's ability surged greatly. Since they made a deal, the ice-cold flame knew that Shiryen's would keep up his word, and it became friendly with Shiryen. Now, it was sealed in Shiryen's blood vein ring so it can't conduct its power. Before it got out of the blood vein ring, it hoped that Shiryen would be fine. Once Shiryen got into accident, it couldn't get out of the blood vein ring anymore. Even if the blood vein ring had a new master, he may not spare it. Therefore, to increase Shiryen's ability as possible as it could was the best choice for it. And it did so. Shiryen felt like a century had passed. There was no earth core fire outside, and the fire inside Shiryen's body was consumed up. After the torment, this short quiet time was very precious to Shiryen. What's up? His spirit went into the blood vein ring to ask the ice-cold flame. Take a rest. You should communicate with the earth core fire and connect your perception with it. Before the earth core fire formed its life, you have to leave your mark in it to let it remember you. Good. Soon, Shiryen finished communicating with the ice-cold flame. Then he concentrated to approach the flame crystal jade. Once his perception touched the flame crystal jade, the earth core fire inside the jade became like a smiling face. The earth core fire was changing inside the flame crystal jade, and now it became a smiling face, appeared very happy. Shiryen's spirit felt its delightment. This time the earth core fire was attached to Shiryen so much, as it wrapped Shiryen's spirit and played happily with it. Shiryen had no choice but to stay. Until Shiryen's spirit got tired and the earth core fire has exhausted itself, Shiryen's spirit took the chance to leave. It's too tiresome this time. Have you noticed that it loves you more? And it regards you as family. Do you notice it? From inside the blood vein ring came the ice-cold flame's voice. Yeah, I do. Good. The ice-cold flame seemed to know this would happen. Your body is refined by the earth core fire for a while, so your body and your spirit power had obtained a touch of the earth core fire. Naturally, it loves that smell and treat you as family. Shiryen was stunned. I ask you to refine with the fire to gain its trust. Only when it was in your body and got familiar with you, will it take you as a friend. The ice-cold flame said slowly, therefore, you have to be more devoted. Refinement could strengthen your body and enhance your martial spirits, and you can make friends with the earth core fire. Yeah, I know what to do. Good. I will add more earth core fire. Shiryen nodded firmly. Let's begin. The next moment, overwhelming firepower came from all directions. This time, the firepower was extremely ferocious and wrapped Shiryen in an instant. The intense fire became another armor on the surface of his body, separating him from the hard ice. Let's start. The ice-cold flame sent the message. Shiryen closed his eyes and pushed the earth core fire into his veins. There were no sun and stars in the magma pond, so there was no concept of time there. At the bottom of the pond, Shiryen was training with refinement hard, and every time he took some rest, he would let his spirit communicate with the earth core fire. Day and night. Refinement tempered one's body, and the exchange of spirit power and earth core fire consumed a lot of spirit power. Shiryen brutally used all his energy to train his body and spirit. On the other day, he was operating the refinement again. This time, when the earth core fire flew inside his veins, his spirit found something special. The spirit power was exploring in his blood and flesh. Suddenly, his blood and flesh was exaggerated greatly, and he could see every cell and the fabric of his flesh. He could feel the minimum things inside his body. One piece of flesh was expanded greatly. Shiryen could see the cells, fabrics, and milky water drops. Milky water drops. They were even smaller than cells, giving out special smell. Shiryen's spirit went down into the milky drops and carefully felt them. It's the power from the mysterious martial spirit. Every time when the meridians absorbed much profound qi, there would be this strange power from his meridians. This energy could trigger and enhance the martial spirit and strengthen the profound qi. Those milky water were just the strange power from the meridians. They were separated in his cells and fabrics in the form of milky water drops. What's that? From the blood vein ring came the thought of the ice-cold flame. There was magical power inside those milky water drops. And the power seems beneficial to your body. You just try to melt it and fill it in your cells. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.